Gokhale sir, am I audible to you?
Yes, yes.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sir, आपला आवाज नाही येत आहे.
Am I audible also?
Yes, right. Yes, yes sir. नमस्कार, पुणे ब्रांच मध्ये आपलं स्वागत.
So we'll start in 2 minutes.
नाही, माझ्याकडे आहे क्लिअर.
वेलकम विशाल भाई.
गुड आफ्टरनून आनंद भाई. गुड आफ्टरनून भूषण जी.
Good afternoon to all the dignitaries, senior members and colleagues present here and those watching this program virtually. I welcome you all to the virtual sub-regional conference at Pune, organized by WIRC and hosted by Pune branch of WIRC of ICAI. I am CA Neha Phadke. Before starting this program, let me acknowledge the esteemed presence of some of the dignitaries online as well as present here. I welcome the chief guest, retired Air Marshal Shri Bhushan Gokhale, Shri CA CV Chittale, Conference Director and our Central Council member, CA Lalit Bajaj, Conference Chairman and Chairman WIRC of ICAI, CA Vishal Doshi, Conference Coordinator and Vice Chairperson of WIRC of ICAI, CA Murtuza Kachwala, Conference Coordinator and Secretary WIRC of ICAI, CA Anand Jakotia, Conference Coordinator, Treasurer of WIRC of ICAI, CA Yashwant Kasar, Conference Coordinator and RCM, and also the branch nominee. CA Abhishek Dhamne, Chairperson of Pune branch of ICAI and Conference Coordinator. CA Kashinath Pathare, Conference Organizing Committee and Secretary and Treasurer of Pune ICAI. CA Samir Ladda, Conference Organizing Committee and Vice Chairperson of Pune branch. Now, before starting this program, the theme of the program is Jnana Setu. Jnana Setu, now in the today's time where we find all the knowledge and everything on the Google, I think Jnana Setu here means bridging the gap between the experienced and the inexperienced in my perspective. So let us start today's program. I request CA Abhishek Dhamne, Conference Coordinator, to give his welcome address.
Thank you, Neha Madam. Chief guest for the session, legendary personality from Pune, Shri Bhushan Gokhale sir, Air Marshal retired, our very own Central Council member, C.V. Chitale sir, my elder brother, Lalit Bhai, Chairman of WIRC, who has logged on virtually from Vadodara, Vishal Bhai, Secretary Murtuja Kachwala sir, our very own treasurer from Pune, Anand Jokotia, immediate past treasurer C. Yashwant Kasar, in absentia Arun Giri, a regional council member from Pune, my co-colleague Samir, Kashinath, and dear all members, those who have logged on virtually. A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I hope you all are keeping well and safe. Friends, this is one of its sort of different conference we have tried to arrange here. WIC team has allotted this sub-regional conference to Pune, and we are really grateful for allotting this conference to Pune. I would like to thank Lalit Bhai and his entire team for allotting this conference. And we are really fortunate that Lalit Bhai and Murtuja Bhai has come down to Pune and to grace the occasion. Friends, we have arranged, other than this meeting, there are 7 interactive meetings which have been arranged with all the stakeholders, and it's an action-packed day. Neha Madam rightly told about the Jnana Setu. Friends, as you are aware that this is a time, various difficult times we must say, but this program is arranged to bridge the gap between the opportunity, our CA profession and opportunities. That's why it is called as Jnana Setu. The program structure, whatever we have covered here, is totally different. We have tried to organize different topics and variety of topics, and all the speakers, all the learned speakers are there. I would like to thank them also for accepting our invitation. Friends, this is almost 8 months since I assumed my charge as chairman of Pune branch. We have conducted various activities. Our theme for the year was 3I. That is, first I is image. That is, as a chartered accountant, we are here to reach to all the stakeholders what work we are doing, what efforts we are taking towards the nation building process. It is our duty to make sure that this work is reached to all the stakeholders. So with that intention, there are 7 interactive meetings, be it cooperative commissioner, be it deputy charity commissioner, joint charity commissioner. Then we are visiting with income tax officials also, income tax commissioner, exemptions. So all entire team is visiting, and we are sharing our efforts, what we have taken. We are understanding their perspective also, how much improvement and what improvement is exactly required. Second, I must say intellect. We have organized number of programs during the year, and this as if there was no hurdle between you and us organizing the program. We have organized the program. If our intellect, if we are able to convey to all the chartered accountants that these are the new opportunities which we should foresee in next 5 to 10 years, we would be really glad to complete that agenda as well. Third I is in infrastructure, be it small thing, accepting your telephone calls without any delay, not missing that. So, and having a good infrastructure at Pune branch. So with all this intention, we have planned our year, and accordingly we have worked for 8 months. I am really fortunate to have today Bhushan Gokhale sir with us. And I would also like to once again thank under whose guidance around the year we have worked Lalit Bhai and his entire team. We are thankful for all the opportunities given to us. With this, I once again welcome all of you. Wish you happy learning during this 9-hour CPE deliberation. And whatever queries you have, we are always there to to solve or support or resolve your queries. With that intention, I uh, I welcome all of you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhishek sir. Now I request CA CV Chitare sir, the conference director and our central council member, to please address us.
Good afternoon and welcome. All those who are available with me here and the others who are on the screen for this inaugural session of Jnana Setu. We are indeed very lucky to have with us as a chief guest who will be inaugurating this particular conference, retired Air Marshal Shri Bhushan Gokhale ji. I am particularly glad, sir, with your presence because not only you are in forefronts of our military and defending India, but you are also heading one educational institution more than 100 years old, and as a member on executive committee of and board of the Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, keeping abreast with the developments in the industry. So it is our good fortune that we have with us to inaugurate this particular session. Friends, and particularly for the information of Gokhale sir, that Ye Esha Sukteshu Jagrati is the emblem of our institute. That means while the world is awake, while the world is sleeping, you keep watch and you are keeping awake, yourself awake. And of course, when you are awake and you want to keep watch over the things, it is necessary that you have to sharpen your image, you have to sharpen your vision. And such seminars definitely add and sharpening process of the particular image or vision. For information of Gokhale sir, whenever you pass out as a chartered accountant, as you know that the field is very dynamic, changes in law keep on happening every now and then. There are developments in techniques. Now, with the advent of this digital era, we have to also upgrade our skill sets. So at Institute, we are having a mandatory working hours or this study sessions, post qualifications, and in a year you have to complete a minimum number of hours to keep your skill set sharpened and walk with the time. And these conferences keep on happening. This pandemic has not deterred us from this particular endeavor. And even during the pandemic, we have organized substantial number of events. And if you consider all India, those events would be numbering not less than 1,000 and not less than 10 lakh hours must have been logged in by all the chartered accountants. So this is the quest for knowledge amongst the CA fraternity. And because of this, we are holding the flag of India very high. Our former president Abdul Kalam ji has described chartered accountants as partners in nation building. So it is not only for the profession that we are working, but even we also assume our social responsibility and try to work for the society. So there are a number of occasions on which we do these endeavors. And I'm sure that in days to come, we will have more interaction with you and we will keep you abreast. Friends, today is very monumental occasion because post-pandemic, it was not possible for the chairman, regional council, Lalit Bajaj, his team members, Murtaza and others, really get out of India, to get out of Mumbai. But then today, for the first time, they have come to our branch. So as a conference director, I take pleasure in extending warm welcome to worthy chairman, CA Lalit Bajaj, and worthy treasurer, Sri Murtaza Kachwala. Both of them have relentlessly worked for the betterment of our region, and I'm sure under their leadership, whether there is pandemic, no pandemic, definitely we will be scaling new high. Locally also at Pune, our branch chairman Abhishek Dhamne and his team members Samir Ladda and Kashinath Pathare, ably guided by Sri CA Yashwant Kasar, they are also taking great efforts for the purpose of enlightening members and ensuring that they do not lag behind as far as this quest of knowledge is concerned. So friends, let us open up this particular session for the purpose of acquiring knowledge, the Jnana Setu. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Chitre sir. Now I would like to request CA Anand Jakotia, who is with us online, to please share a few words.
Thank you. Respected participants and my dear professional colleagues, welcome all to this sub-regional conference, very first virtual sub-regional conference at our own city, Pune, NAN Setu. I also welcome my colleagues in WIRC, Chairman Lalit Bhai, Secretary Murtaza Bhai, and my dearest friend and local hero, Yashwant Bhai, to this sub-regional conference. As I always say, पुणे मी फक्त पुण्यात पुणेकरात जसं दम आहे तसंच पुणे ह्या नावात पण फार दम आहे. P for peaceful, U for ultimate, N for natural, and E for education. So this is an educational city, and I think worthy for choosing this city for Nan Setu. And Team Abhishek had put all the efforts to make this sub-regional conference successful. Thanks, Lalit Bhai, for allotting this conference to Pune. Under the able leadership of CV Chitale sir and Lalit Bhai, apt topics and the best of speakers are chosen for this sub-regional conference. And Abhishek Bhai and his team had organized various meetings with different authorities, some online and some physically. Superb efforts by Team Pune, and seeing amazing year at Pune as well as WIRC in spite of this challenging year, this pandemic year. And it's rightly said that challenges make life interesting, and overcoming those challenges successfully make life meaningful. And you have proven both the chairman at Pune Abhishek and chairman at WIRC Lalit Bhai. Once again, welcome all to this conference, and it's our honor to have Bhushan Gokhleji, Air Marshal, as a chief guest for this conference. Welcome, Bhushan sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakotia. Now I would like to request CA Murtuza Kachwala, conference coordinator, to please share a few words with us.
Thank you, Neha. Good afternoon, Pune, and good afternoon to all the members who logged in into this virtual sub-regional conference. I welcome Chief Guest, Sri Bhushan Gokhleji, Central Council Member, CSCB Chitle sir, and today's learned speaker, CA Gautam Doshi and CA Anish Thakkarji. We are grateful to all of you for joining us today here. I also thank the team WRC, all the regional council members, and the team Pune branch. And a big thank you to the Pune branch team for the excellent effort put in to set up this physical and virtual environment today for all of us. Friends, Setu is a bridge, and we said the bridge between knowledge, opportunities, and the chartered accountants. And I think what better than the last 8 months, the COVID time has really encouraged all of us to make the necessary changes which we were reluctant to make possibly. And each and every, whether it is a large firm or whether it is a small and medium enterprise, the work has not stopped. People have started working from home. And earlier, maybe we were on a server or a computer. Now we have moved to a cloud-based Tally, possibly if we are on Tally. We have all the platforms through which we are still filing the returns on a monthly basis. And maybe us youngest of the article clerk has also started working from home. And so we adopted the technology so well, and not only in our life and in our practices, but also in WIRC, where we done so many webinars and so many training, and we brought about so many different type of topics with excellent speakers to all of you at your home. And you could attend through your mobile or tablet or your laptop or computer. So knowledge announcement has happened. Now, when I talk about opportunities, friends, we are covering in these 2 days a speaker talking to us on fraud and forensic, and with the virtual environment, a lot of online banking and insurance and maybe online shopping, there is an opportunity, a lot of frauds happening, and hence there is an opportunity for us to grab. So we kept a session on that. If you look at like the whole of RPA, the artificial intelligence, the data analytics, there are so many opportunities for chartered accountant to grab. And when we say work from anywhere, there are so many opportunities on the IT security, the cloud, the work from anywhere. And at WIRC in the last 8 months, we've done programs on AI, artificial intelligence, RPA, data analytics, etc. And it is not only a software like an idea, but we also done programs on coding on R, SQL, etc. And we'll do a lot more. So an idea software was also made available for 30 days demo version. And then the program on how to use it, a 1-day program was organized. And so many other programs under the leadership of the chairman, we conducted to enable our members to be equipped. One last thing, and friends, like there have been a lot of tools as well. And there has been a paradigm shift. I am seeing young team of chartered accountants. In a normal environment, we used to do reconciliation and third-party confirmation. There is a young team of chartered accountants who have come up with a tool whereby tool-based confirmation and reconciliations can happen. We have seen a team of chartered accountants coming with a cloud environment where the bank can put the data branch-wise in the folder, and the chartered accountant and the team sitting from home can access the data, do the audit, and put their queries there, and through a video platform connect, and then also get the queries resolved and make the report and again put it into that folder. So the manner in which we adopted the technology, and I am sure we will all pick up all these opportunities which are available, we'll all pick up all the knowledge that is available, and we are ensuring at WIRC, at the branches, at ICAI, we are trying to be a bridge to bring all this to you. And this sub-regional conference today and tomorrow is again and one more attempt to bring different type of topics with excellent faculties so that we all pick up those things and we start adopting into our life. With that, let me stop here and thank you very much, Team WIRC and Team Pune branch for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request CA Vishal Doshi to please address us. He is present with us online.
Friends,
Vishal,
Chitre sir, Central Council member, chairman, other office bearers, and RC members, Yashwant Bhai, Anand Bhai, Murtuza Bhai, Lalit Bhai, chairman of the branch, Abhishek and team Pune, speakers, Shri Gautam Bhai and Anish Bhai, and my special greetings to the members who have joined in large numbers. Friends, at the outset, I would like to compliment the Pune branch for organizing this sub-regional conference, Gyan Setu, in virtual mode and ensuring that members participate in large numbers. I agree that the topics are a blend of being contemporary and futuristic. While we will be discussing about corporate taxes and auditing tools, we will also be discussing about RERA, fraud detection and global reporting. The SRC no doubt has eminent speakers, and I'm sure that the participants would take maximum benefit from this. Friends, I would also like to take this opportunity to bring to the notice of the participants that some of the activities which we have done and which we are proposing to do at WIRC. The recent and the most significant being about launching Excel tools on the WIRC website for the small and medium practitioners especially, where you can download those Excel files and you punch in the data and you would be able to get the residential status output, whether GST registration is required, not required, financial ratios, auditing compliance checklists. So all these Excel tools are freely available for members as well as their clients and their team on the WRC website. And I wish that members take maximum benefit from this. Coming to the future, we have a few publications, again, keeping the small and medium practitioners in mind. And one such publication being about model draft financial statements for non-corporate entities with notes and disclosures. This would help our members in ensuring proper compliance when they are certifying the financial statements with respect to a proprietorship or a partnership or a LLP. And so this publication would really help them going forward. With this, I thank once again Team Pune for giving me this opportunity to interact with you virtually. And I wish all the members a very, very happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our chairperson of WIRC, CA Lalit Bajaj sir, to please come here and address us. And I also request him to launch the Pune ICAI website.
Good afternoon, Shri Bhushan Gokleji, Air Marshal, retired. Our senior and mentor, Shri Shivaji Jhavre in absentia, who has mentored in all the initiatives of WIRC and Pune branch. Central Council member and my dear elder brother, Chandra Shekhar Chitleji. Experts on the subject who are on the dais, CA Gautam Doshi, CA Anish Thakkar, my co-regional council members and branch nominee and office bearer treasurer CA Anand Jakotia, CA Yashwant Kasar, CA Arun Giri, regional council members and office bearers Vishal Bhai, Murtuja Bhai, branch chairman Abhishek Dhamne, leader in itself, along with his team, Samir Ladda, Kashinath, Ruta, Rajesh, Amruta, Abhishek, MOC Neha Fadke, dignitaries of the dais, seniors and friends. On behalf of WIRC and Pune branch, I welcome all of you in this sub-regional conference named Gyan Setu, which is organized by WIRC and hosted by Pune branch. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Pune branch for organizing such a versatile and apt sub-regional conference wherein we will be able to hear from experts on various technical issues we all professionals are facing. And with Bhushanji Gokhale on the board, I think so it is something which each and every chartered accountant from Western region will be expecting to hear and to learn a lot from his words of wisdom. Congratulate Pune branch, and I would again congratulate Pune branch for launching its website. And I propose and I announce the launch of the website of Pune branch. Friends, WIRC started with its theme this year, create competence with ethics, achieve governance through innovation. And let me tell you that Pune branch have participated in research initiatives, in publication initiatives with all its members, and really helped us in ensuring that we can really work on the theme which we have decided and objective which we have planned. Friends, WIRC along with its branches and study circles is working on a common principle. I would like to name it as PAIR, PAIR. We have broadly divided all our actions into four things. First is P. P stands for publications. Second is A for activities. Third is I for initiatives. And fourth is R for representations. Looking at the dynamic time which we all are facing, friends, let me tell you, with the help of all the members and leaders at branches and study circle, WIRC with the help of all its central council members have been enabled to pursue its various initiatives in various methodologies and in various manners. I look forward for more and more participation from all of my members in all the activities and initiatives. As far as various activities and initiatives are concerned, I would request all the members go through the newsletter of WIRC and the website. You will get all the details. And over and above that, wherever you want to participate or contribute, please write to us at wirc@ici.in. With this, I once again welcome all of you and look forward for enthralling and learning session in the next 2 days, wherein we are all looking forward to enrich ourselves on various aspects. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now, before I request our chief guest to address the conference, I would like to give a brief introduction for the members attending this conference. Air Marshal retired Bhushan Nilkant Gokhleji was commissioned into the Indian Air Force in June 1968 in the fighter stream. A qualified flying instructor and fighter combat leader from the prestigious Tactics and Combat Development Establishment, the Air Marshal graduated from the Defense Services Staff College. He completed his MSc and MPhil from Madras University. He is an alumni of Air War College, USA, and Fellow of Aeronautical Society of India. After his retirement as Vice Chief of Air Staff in 2007, uh, he has served in various prestigious roles. He has served as a consultant to the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO. Moreover, he has served as the nominated member on boards of two defense PSUs, namely Bharat Electronics Limited and Bharat Dynamics Limited. Speaking, Quick Heal has appointed Sir Gokhale sir as an additional director in independent category with effect from August 2020. Now I request our chief guest, Air Marshal retired Bhushan Nilkant Gokhale sir, to please share a few words of wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha Madam. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a privilege for me to be here as a chief guest at the regional conference being hosted in Pune. And I must say that I'm one of those citizens of India who likes to pay taxes. And to keep me doing that honestly, I have a chartered accountant who makes sure that I'm very straight. And all my entries in the passbooks and everything else are so very correct. So sometimes, when Ambekar, that is my chartered accountant, Anirudh Ambekar, keeps telling me that, on every entry in the passbook, I want you to write what is it for so that your memory doesn't fail you later on. I must thank him for putting me into this kind of a thing, because only it's after retirement that I really started requiring the kind of services of a chartered accountant. Of course, my relations have been a lot of chartered accountants. My own mama, of course, is no more, but FCA, Mr. D.N. Turpure from Sholapur, had a big firm. And then another Turpure, who you all may know, Sanju Turpure, who is a chartered accountant. I also had a brother-in-law in Patankar firm. He is Mr. Mungekar, no more, of course. And likewise, I've been associated with chartered accountants in the family or friends. I've, Ranjit Nathu, and of course, Sri Chitare, iconic figure of Pune in a way, who spoke about me on Maratha Chamber, because in Maratha Chamber, every time there is any session on finance, we request always Sri Chitare to give us all his views, especially when there is a budget which is announced. He is the first one to be giving all the comments, including to the media. So I must thank Mr. Chitare. He spoke very warmly about me. I must thank Mr. Lalit Bajaj, Mr. Abhishek Dhamne, who came yesterday along with Mr. Yashwant Kasa to invite me. And there is Mr. Vishal Doshi, who just spoke, Murtaza Kachwala, Anand Jakotia, Samir Ladda, Kashna Pathare, and many others who are here. If I'm by mistake not taken their names, it is just that I want to try and keep it within the time limit that I've been allotted. I like the way Mr. Chitre mentioned about your motto, and I think that goes very rightly when yesterday Mr. Yashwant Kasar told me that, you are one of the finance warriors, as would like to, call. We call ourselves air warriors, and I think all of us are warriors in our own way, making sure the nation building, as Honorable APJ Abdul Kalam had said, that we all partners in nation building, and that's the way we can take this country to $5 trillion dream, or the Atmanirbhar and various other initiatives that government is wanting to achieve for all of us. I'm very glad that this Nyan Setu, the interaction that is being planned, has very, very important topics. And the technology is making that happen today in this very unusual year, where we are doing a lot of work from home or attending some of the webinars. And I like the way you have got some fraud detection prevention, because one reads in media a lot of these things. And I'm very happy that this is part of the continuity training program that you have planned, including think beyond. One can keep looking at a profession, but what is it in the future? I think it's a very important topic. You can talk about AI, data analytics, and of course, there is forensic, which is very important. So I'm very happy that I'm here to inaugurate this conference. Let me just mention a few things that, coming from budget in particular, as I was mentioning about Mr. Chitare, because we both are in Maratha Chamber, and I talk about defense budget many times. It means defense budget. Actually, I don't like the word defense, incidentally. I always say that please call us armed forces and not defense forces. Please call us Shashastra Sena, not Saurakshan Sena. Because as soon as you say defense, there is a kind of a tendency to be on the back foot. You're allowing somebody else to always take the initiative. And that is not what today's India is, and not should be the today's youth would be looking at. There is kind of a mental block that happens as soon as you talk about back foot. I think we are doing okay so far in the one-day match which is going on in Australia, and that is only possible if you're on the front foot. So that, in our budget, especially when you have this big elephant who's sitting on top of us at Ladakh, after all, how did he get to that kind of a strength? He's got it because of the economy that is behind him. And that economy building is something that is very essential for India today. We are talking in terms of, as I said, 5 trillion, but all that can happen when we're looking at direct and indirect taxes. And you are one of the important segments of this to ensure that more and more people come into the taxation net, and that more and more contribution is made. Actually, sometimes maybe messages don't really go loud and clear, but each of us, including everybody on the road or otherwise, maybe a very marginal, entrepreneur, but if that is, all that means a certain amount of contribution will go a long way in nation building, because that is how the India's strength would improve. When it comes to, of course, China is today in the big news, not only for anything else, but I was looking at some of the statistics just a few hours ago. Out of the 190 plus countries in the United Nations, there are many who are monarchies, almost 50 of them. There are many who are single party oligarchies. A true democracy, as such, what you would call, maybe I would call it, of course, India is a very shining example of true democracy. It could be young as in terms of his from independence, but we have seen what is going on in the oldest democracy. It is still to ratify who the president is. So the democracy, of course, comes with challenges. So when I talk about national security, sometimes to youngsters, the youngsters always keep asking me, so what about China? So I say, would you like to go there? Would you like to be a citizen of China? Then they keep quiet about it, and they say, no, so certainly not. Because the democracy allows us freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and so many other things that, were not allowed in a typical country like what Xi Jinping would like to have. There is technology which is used to make sure that everyone is targeted, everyone is identified. If nobody can have a freedom of speech, it's happening in Hong Kong, it's happening all over. Well, that is not the topic as I would like to mention, but these are the things that in democracy, when we see our India facing turbulent times, you have farmers' agitation, which is reaching Delhi just now, and there are issues which many segments in the society are not necessarily satisfied with many policies that take place. But in that, the main thing is the economic backbone of the country is the most important. And I think the chartered accountant, your profession, as I mentioned, make sure that all these kind of taxations are made to contribute towards the nation building. I would like to also mention that there is, when it comes to defense budget in particular, we also have the real budget and a kind of a, what you call notional budget. We have the problem of capital budget and the revenue budget. And more often the revenue budget takes a big chunk out of the whole thing. And then our new schemes, they tend to, sort of get much less allotment. And that is where the modernization suffers. But in spite of that, today we are sitting right there. And as I talked about the armed forces and the defense forces, when the talks are going on with China, we are not ready to vacate the heights that we have conquered on the south bank of the Pangong Lake, because naturally we are at an advantage. We have learned the hard way from Kargil. In Kargil, when we were at the top of the heights, we, in our good way, in winter, we came down, but the Pakistanis occupied our own post, and of course, 600 plus lives were lost from our side. And Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj has taught us what is the importance of the forts, the killas, and the heights that one can conquer, because you're overlooking the enemy every time. So we are not ready to certainly give that in. There are going to be a lot of talks going on. The winter is very severe at Ladakh. I've been there many times, including at Pangong Lake, and I can always make what the people must be going through, as your motto also said, talking about this, sound sleep and people being awake. It was given by Sri Aurobindo. And I think even for us, it's just not possible to be able to take that kind of a sleep or take the eyes off. I personally think that when it comes to some of the unfortunate, I would call them even curses, as a matter of fact, India faces is of corruption, the black money, and of course the parallel economy that goes on. And I think that is where your role is very important. I keep mentioning to many people that I don't mind paying a tax for one reason, that finally, if it is going to be helping the country, it is welcome move as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a patriotic Indian, and so are all of us who are here, either virtually or in physical form, that we all would like to see an India of our dreams. There are many students, I'm told, are also, who are here, who are appearing for chartered accountant exams, articleship, and they're also listening. And it is these youth of tomorrow, who are the leaders of tomorrow, are the most important segment that they should understand as to what the problems are and how there are solutions. Because the problems is something that allows us to be thinking how to make the solutions out of those. You can't be just getting bogged down by just problems. I actually call problems, when people say, I say, look, there are challenges and opportunities. Because as soon as you say problem, there is a tendency to sort of once again get into that kind of a mindset that is there a solution at all. Coming to especially your profession, I must say that there are a lot of new things happening, and I'm very glad that the entire 2 days discussion would be on many things which are going to be happening every now and then, in terms of both technology, the new rules, the regulations. And I think Neha Madam mentioned about my independent director as Quick Heal. One of the reasons why I have joined this company is because it's a Make in India company. And cyber, as you know, is a very important aspect. I call it the war without weapons. And Quick Heal, I'm sure, has a contribution to do. But then, there is something which has happened, and I'm going to be taking help from my own chartered accountant to teach me some things, because, I've been board of director for many years, for almost 9 years, but it has been 1 year short. And the new rule says that if you don't complete 10 years as an independent director in a row, then you have to appear for an exam. So at my ripe age of 73, I'm going to be once again studying. And I was announcing to the Maharashtra Education Society, which Chitra mentioned about the education society I had, that I'm going to be a student all over again, but I'm going to do well in that exam. Thanks to my gurus, they would be from Commerce College for Abasaheb Garware Commerce College, as well as from my chartered accountant friends. I'm going to make sure that I do that, understand the whole thing. So it's a very continuous education, which is very important. In the military, we do that. There is a continuity in terms of education. We find it different seniorities because after all, there is a requirement to be not only getting theoretical education, but to be able to understand from the experience of others how to apply that education. And that is exactly what I find in your program. I've been through what you're going to be covering in the next 2 days. And I find that this Jnana Setu is going to be bridging that gap, as was mentioned by somebody, I think Mr. Pathare mentioned it, that, sorry, Mr. Dhamne mentioned it, I think, that gap between the experience and those who are learning about the various theoretical aspects of it. So I really wish this conference all the very best and wish you, all of you and your family, a safe COVID-19. Make sure that the infection, though it is once again trying to recover in Pune or many other places in Maharashtra, please be safe. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind. I would request C.A. Samir Ladda, Vice Chairperson of Pune branch, to please propose a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Neha. Dignitaries on the dais, on the screen, all the members participating in this Jnana Setu organized by WIRC and hosted by Pune branch. Welcome on behalf of Pune branch to all of you. Before doing formal vote of thanks, I would like to make one announcement. Pune branch has organized National Conference of Students on 25th, 26th and 27th December. This national conference will be physical come virtual national conference under the guidance of our Central Council member C.V. Chitri sir and guidance of my colleagues Abhishek Dhamne, Kashinath, and all other committee members. We are organizing this national conference. I request all the participants, please ask your article students to enroll whenever the registrations will be started. Air Marshal, today Chief Guest, Air Marshal Chief Sri Bhushanji Gokhale sir. I give my sincere thanks on behalf of Pune branch for giving your valuable time to us for this inauguration of this conference. In this pandemic situation, both the leaders of WRC, Lalitji Bajaj, Chairman WRC, and our Abhishek Dhamne shows that this situation does not affect any great leaders. Irrespective of situation, they work hard for all the members. Thank you, Lalitji Bajaj sir. Lalit Bajaj sir and Mr. Murtuja Kachwala sir are today present with us in Pune branch for this conference. It's great to know for us that this is their first physical visit to any branch. Thank you very much for giving your precious time to Pune branch. Sri Vishal Doshi sir and our Sri Anand Deputy sir, Treasurer of WRC. Thank you for giving your time for this conference. Sri Yashwant Kasar sir, in absence of Sri Arun Anandagiri sir, conference coordinator. Thanks a lot on behalf of Pune branch. Sri Chitri sir, Central Council member of and under whose able guidance, and we are organizing this wonderful Jnana Setu. Thanks a lot, Chitri sir, for your guidance and warm opening remarks. Last and not the least, all the members who have participated in this conference, and MOC, Neha Fadke, thank you very much on behalf of Pune branch of ICAI. Wish you happy learning.
Thank you, Samir. Now I request the conference coordinator and branch nominee CA Yashwant Kasar sir to please come and give the opening address.
Friends, after the wonderful speech by our today chief guest, sir, we'll be soon starting with our technical sessions for today's conference. And we are really fortunate that to start this sub-regional conference, we have a keynote speaker, very senior tax practitioner, and I would say one of the legendary personality, chartered accountant, CA Gautam Doshi sir. So without wasting much time, I request the MOC to please introduce, although Gautam Doshi sir needs no introduction among fraternity, but I request MOC to introduce Gautam Doshi sir formally. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Yashwant sir. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Gautam Doshi. He is a chartered accountant and master's in commerce. He has been in professional practice for over 45 years. He advises various industrial groups and families and also serves as a director on board of leading public listed and unlisted companies. He has over the period been recognized for his work in large number of fields of professional practice, including mergers and acquisitions, direct, indirect and international taxation, transfer pricing, accounting and corporate and commercial law. He has been actively involved in conceptualizing and implementing a number of mergers and restructuring transactions both domestic and cross-border, involving many of the top 20 listed companies on the BSE as also those forming part of the FTSE Limited. I'm glad to inform you all that he is a prolific speaker. Mr. Doshi has addressed several seminars and conferences within and outside India and courses organized by ICAI, International Fiscal Association, and other professional bodies and chambers of commerce. Now, I would like to request CA Gautam Doshi sir to please take over the conference and share his thoughts on the next topic, which is Team India, upcoming global tax nucleus, paradigm shift in corporate tax.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be able to participate in this very interesting sub-regional conference. And I must thank the Pune branch for giving me this opportunity to be able to set some tone to this conference, which is going to discuss both current subjects and futuristic subjects. And I think this is a topic which they would like to cover in this address is perhaps most interesting. We are talking about the paradigm shift in corporate taxation. Is India becoming a tax haven, a hub? Is tax arbitrage something which India is now learned to use and is using as a means of growth? I think it has always done that. You had things like investment allowance and ATIA and all those deductions. So it is not that we have not used tax as an incentive, as a means of growth. If industrial growth is to be achieved, tax is one of the vehicles, one of the tools which can be used to achieve that growth. What then is the difference now? And the difference is that in this round, in this paradigm shift, as we call it, we are now talking about a change which is across the board. We are trying to reduce corporate taxation. We haven't reduced it enough, but we have brought it down to say 25%. across the board. It is now no conditions. It does not depend upon your setting up a new industry, your being in a particular line of business, you're employing so many people. None of those conditions are attached. You are now saying that Indian companies or companies in India will pay tax at effectively 22% plus surcharges, working out to something like 25%. Well, that's a major change. As I said, we need to examine whether it is enough, and that's something which is going to be a question mark. A number of developing countries similarly placed, or may not be so similarly placed, because the resources they have to offer may not be as abundant, as effective as the resources which India offers, but ultimately similarly placed, are also offering incentives to industry. But even the developed countries of the world today are offering the same incentive. The effective tax rate in USA is coming down to less than 20%. The effective tax rate on corporates in UK is below 20%. So what effectively the world is saying is that companies which do business, companies which invest money, companies which generate employment deserve to get a concession in their tax because they have a choice. A company can decide to set up in India or in Bangladesh or in Vietnam or in UK. An individual has a much lesser choice of settling down in India, Bangladesh, or UK. It's not so easy to change. Your roots are at a certain place. The laws and the regulations of various countries stop you from going from location to location so easily. But a company can uproot itself and go anywhere. Today it can be in India, tomorrow it can be in Singapore. And that is why one gives a concession to companies to bring them in. If we compare ourselves with those concessions, perhaps we have not come to the same level, but we are making an attempt to be one with the world, to change from the concept of corporate taxation where we were trying to charge companies as if they were individuals, as if they were liable to pay tax the same as individuals. From that, we have changed our thinking and we are now willing to look upon them as generators of business and employment, and for that purpose, give them a different categorization. And then we have done the second part of it, and that is the attempt to reduce the rate even further. We have brought in the 15% rate effectively for all companies which are engaged in manufacturing, but which are new, which are set up after a certain date. So here again, we have started imposing conditions. This is not the same as the 25%. This is not an across-the-board reduction. This is a conditional reduction. I'm not sure we justifiably deserve a conditional reduction. Could it have been across the board? Budgetary constraints are there. It may not be possible for the government beyond a certain point because of budgetary constraints to give relief. But subject to that, I would have considered a 15% across the board rate as more realistic. But coming back, so what are we trying to say? We are trying to say, as a general policy, we come down. India is not going to charge companies as heavily as it used to. And it is not going to charge companies which are encouraging growth, which are engaged in the one area which we consider to be desirable for the country, which we want them to do. In that case, we'll give them a further concession and give them the lower rate of 15%. It's again a great move. Again, it has, of course, to be put in context and compared. Here you are competing with other countries who, in similar levels of development, are trying to encourage industries to come and set up in their country. So what is it that they offer? So if you go to Vietnam, you'd still have a 10-year holiday. In addition to the 10-year holiday, you have a situation where there is no dividend tax. Whereas with a 15% rate of tax plus a dividend tax at the highest rate, the effective rate of tax to the shareholder who receives the money could be as high as 47%. To a non-resident, it could be as high as 21 or 25%, depending upon the rate of withholding tax he's suffering. So it is fairly high. It is not as low as 15%. Whereas in Vietnam, you would have a 10-year tax holiday and no dividend tax. Or in Malaysia, again a 5 to 10-year tax holiday. In Thailand, an 8 to 15 years tax holiday, but there is a dividend tax. In Indonesia, the holiday can go up to 25 years, but with a holiday, again with a dividend tax. So we need to decide which direction we want to go and with how much of an incentive we want to give, and whether we want to give incentives or if, as a policy, we have decided we are not really going to give incentives. We are not going to try and distinguish between companies because that leads to litigation, uncertainty, an attempt to take an unfair advantage by somehow or the other fitting into the criteria and so on. And are we going to reduce taxes across the board? Can we make 25 into 20 and forget the 15%? These are things which we have to consider. Now, what does this change signify? This whole change of tax rate. Along with that, you have the abolition of MAT. So now there is no attempt to do a minimum alternate taxation. Why? Correctly, I don't think it is required. If along with this rate, one of the conditions is there will be no Chapter 60 deduction. There will be no additional depreciation. There will virtually be no incentive allowances. And if that be true, then you have a situation where the taxable income and the book profit will be on par. There are very few reasons for a difference between the two. Difference may continue. Accounting may permit you to do straight line depreciation. Income tax will give you depreciation on written down value. The difference between the two will continue as a difference. It will result in a higher book profit, but a lower taxable income. Deferred taxation will make up for the difference. It will be visible on the face of the profit and loss account, but there will be a difference between them. So that is possible. However, those differences are minor. You may have the same differences for things like long-term capital gains. You may have those differences where you have a huge dividend income and an ATM deduction. But subject to that, the two are on par, and therefore you don't really need to continue MAT. So you now have a very welcome means of taxation overall for corporates and something which one can look forward to. But is everything moving in the same direction? And that's a very difficult thing to comment upon. One would think that while these things are moving in the right direction, there are other moves in different directions. And one needs to consider whether one has to take a holistic view. So for example, while you're doing this on digital taxation, India is trying to be in the forefront of BEPS, and you have a 2% equalization levy. You have other levies on e-commerce. What is the difference? Are these indirect tax levies? Are these direct tax levies? What exactly is the taxation which we are charging? It is not clear. So what are we trying to do? We are only trying to recover some additional tax from people we think who should be paying tax to the country. Are they paying? The answer is no. If Google is forced to pay a 2% equalization levy, Google has started charging the Indian users, the Indian advertisers, the same 2% grossed up, so that effectively they are paying. So the payment is coming from the Indian advertiser to the government of India via Google. It is not something which Google is paying from its pocket as a direct tax. So this is something which is not really working out. Before we make a fundamental change in these fields, we need to consider whether, especially in the international arena, we are sending the right message. Take GAR. It's coming out more as a fear psychosis. It's creating a level of fear, creating a level of uncertainty, which is perhaps unjustified. Why? The reason is we are told that GAR is being applied through a bureaucracy, through the CBDT, through the tax department, who are mature and responsible people, who will apply it in the right spirit. There are a variety of safeguards which will take care of the taxpayer, and therefore you need not be afraid of something like GAR. It will only hurt those who are really trying to misuse the law. If that were true, it would be a great thing. Is it true? And then you have the question that you have a judiciary which can take all sorts of views. You can undo the thinking on, say, a double tax treaty and Mauritius and Singapore and the right to lower rate of tax by an advanced ruling authority who in a case like Flipkart takes a different view. And then the courts will take their own time to come to a conclusion. So you are uncertain. So when you talk of GAR being applied by a responsible bureaucracy, one wonders. Take Vodafone. You had a retrospective tax. A question was raised about the validity of that. An arbitral panel has a detailed consideration, come to a conclusion. You are not willing to accept. You are still considering whether you should or should not accept this. Why? Yes, sovereign rights are important. Yes, somebody should not take away something from this country if it is this, he needs to pay to this country. But on the other hand, if you had not got the right language in your laws or the right concepts in your laws, then you must accept that. You must change from today, the day you realize, but you can't go back and tax somebody who earlier took advantage of it. So one has to think twice about the approach, the attitude, the way in which we are treating taxpayers and assessees. That is the fundamental change which is required, and that will make the paradigm shift. And part of that paradigm shift is the change towards digitization, the faceless assessment, the pre-filled forms, the complete change in the way in which assessments are going to happen in times to come. It is a fundamental change. It's as much of a paradigm shift as the change in the rate of tax. And it's going to have perhaps even greater impact than the lower rate of tax. Because if this really means that one can depend upon the tax law being administered in a manner in which one expects it to be administered responsibly and maturely, so that what one reads in the law, what one understands the law to be, is what one will see in an assessment order. And therefore, if one is entitled to a relief, one will get it. If one is not entitled, one will not even attempt it. Then I think we would really have achieved something fantastic. If somebody else can't get away because he is able to buy as an officer, whereas I'm not able to buy as an officer, so I must pay higher tax, that era is going to come to an end because of faceless assessments and the way in which we move forward. I think that change and the confidence which it will generate is going to be far more important as a change, as a shift. But even here, like everywhere else, there is a but. A few things are required. We need to have some safety valves, some routes and ways out. You can't have a format of a return which does not allow you to make a claim for a fact on which you want to make a claim, because the return has certain pre-filled columns. And if you fill in X, Y will automatically get generated. You can't have that type of situation. You must have the freedom for assessees to make claims, for assessees to put forward ideas, for assessees to put forward their facts, for assessees to give information, so that they are not unnecessarily put to trouble. So we do need safety valves, we do need changes in this digitized, faceless, pre-filled era, the electronic era of taxation. And I'm sure it will come. I'm sure that with experience, as we learn, we will improve those things. TDS and 26AS was a complete disaster in the first 1 year of implementation. Today it's becoming simpler. It is still not fully resolved. It's still difficult to match the accrual system and the cash system, and how you will claim your credit for TDS under a cash system when it happens in a different era. It is still not completely resolved, but it's greatly resolved. This will also happen. But today you do have problems, but subject to the problems, I think the move, the way we are changing towards faceless assessment and therefore giving greater certainty of taxation is perhaps one of the greatest moves which we are making. And I think that will take care of the one major damaging factor in Indian taxation. What was the problem with Vodafone? When I mentioned it, what is the difficulty? The uncertainty. One doesn't mind paying the tax. What one minds is, I don't know whether I will have to pay the tax or not. And I don't know when I will be charged, when an assessment will be reopened, when I will be unfairly asked to do something. That uncertainty, if it is going to come to an end, and I think the way we are moving towards a more certain era. Uncertainty can't come to zero, but we are coming towards far greater certainty and far greater, fairer system of taxation. And if I think we move towards that, we will really achieved something great for the country. Thank you. Thank you for having heard me so patiently and given me this opportunity to express my views on this subject.
Thank you, sir. As rightly said by Steve, yes, the change in rate of tax is not a paradigm shift in corporate tax. It has begun with this assessments and pre-filled form, though it needs more polishing. And similar changes in the way we practice is also required. So thank you, sir. Though saying the words thank you alone cannot be enough to demonstrate the gratitude that we gain through such experience in eminent faculty, still I would propose a formal vote of thanks. Thank you, sir. Uh, moving
Thank
forward,
you.
I would like to introduce the next faculty who will be speaking upon the same topic of taking forward the same topic. Uh, Senior Anish M. Thakur. I would like to give a brief introduction of Anish sir. He is a fellow member of ICAI and a law graduate from Mumbai University. He has more than 30 years of experience in income tax advisory, compliance, and litigation. He is a partner at Tax and Regulatory Services with Ernst& Young LLP, EY, looking after taxation of financial service players. He is the sector leader for insurance, and he has joined ENY in 2009. Prior to that, he was working with BSR and Company, and before that, he has also had practiced in his firm name AM Thakkar and Company. He's a visiting faculty at was a visiting faculty at Sydenham Institute of Management Studies, Research and Entrepreneurship Education for 2 to 3 years, and he has also been a guest speaker at various management institutes. I would like to request Anish Thakkar to please share your thoughts on the topic.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Nehaji, for the kind words of introduction. First and foremost, I would like to seek the blessings of Gautam Bhai, who I consider one of my gurus. And I am very, very privileged that Gautam Bhai set the context for this session. And I think that every word that he spoke was correct. So thank you very much, sir, for setting the tone for this conference as such and my session also.
Welcome, Anish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to again thank the WIRC, CA Lalit Bajaj, the chairperson of the WIRC, also Central Council member Shri Chitrale sir, Abhishek Damne, the chairman of the Pune branch of the WIRC, all the other dignitaries on the dais, and of course, I would want to thank all the participants for coming on this Friday in such large numbers. Now, Gautam Bhai very rightly said that the shift in taxation has to come because we need ease of doing business, right? And when the government of India, or this government really took up the case, took up charge in 2019 and in Modi government 2.0, right? Sorry, just a second, I'll just do slideshow. Give me a moment. Yeah, thank you. So when the government took over or got re-elected in 2019, I think one of the key considerations for the government was to improve India's ranking in the ease of doing business. And therefore, one of the things that I think the government of India took from various other governments were that why don't we simplify the scheme of taxing corporates? In that, we reduce the headline corporate tax rates, but at the same time, we also create a simpler regime whereby several incentives, deductions, etc. And Gautam Bhai rightly mentioned, it all started with investment allowance, where at that point in time, I believe it was the need of the hour to encourage manufacturing and production, and industrialization was desperately needed. But we've come to a stage, I believe, where again the system has become so complex, right, that it needed some sort of a change. And when that change was brought about, it was brought about by promulgating the Taxation Laws Amendment Ordinance 2019 shortly after the government took over. So the first budget of the Modi 2.0 government was on 5th of July 2019, and on 20th of September 2019 an ordinance was promulgated whereby a simplified scheme of corporate tax was introduced, which was Section 115 BAA and BAB. Permit me to turn off my video while I speak because I'll have to look at the screen very, very closely. Once I finish, I will come back on video. So, point is that, when, sorry, yeah. So really, what we're going to look at is 115 BAA and 115 BAB, which came in from the ordinance of 2019, The other thing that Gautam Bhai also spoke about was dividend tax. And I think these are the two broad themes that I want to cover. I'm conscious of time, and therefore we'll probably just rush through some of the provisions and give a quick overview. And if there is something that we need to delve into in detail, we can do it either through the Q&A, or then participants can reach out to me. Pune branch has my contacts, and I'm happy to help anybody who has any sort of questions. So going to the key amendments, as I was saying, the two things that Gautam Bhai really mentioned. One was that corporate tax reduced to 22% for everybody, across the board reduction from 30%. So effective rate became 25.17 from 34.94, right, for all domestic companies. Okay. But of course, no deductions, no incentives, etc. But that's still fine. And these were the deductions or the incentives that, were kind of taken away by this option. And we'll come to, this in a little more detail, but just as an overview, if I take, these are the sections which basically were, in this new regime, you cannot claim these deductions. So going back to the, provisions again, from that perspective, no MAT, and that was, I believe, a big relief. For new manufacturing and domestic companies who set up after 1st of October 2019 and who commenced manufacturing on or before 31st of March 2023, there is an option to avail a concessional tax rate of 15%, effective rate being 17.16% from income from the qualified activity. And then the dividend amendments came in, whereby in a very loose way, the pre-DDT regime, pre-1997 regime came back, and dividend became taxable in the hands of the shareholder, and the company was not required to pay a dividend distribution tax from 1st of April 2020. Now, these really were the two big themes, and these two big themes underline how we want to go back to a system which is simple, which is easy to implement. Question, as rightly put by Gautam Bhai, is, did we manage to get there? And the answer is probably we didn't, because some of these new provisions, new options created a lot more questions in everybody's mind. And if we sit and delve through all of those questions, I believe we'll continue to do that till tomorrow, at the very least. So we'll not go through all of those, but we'll go through some very quick overviews. Really, if we see the old regime prior to the promulgation of the ordinance, and which then got converted into the Taxation Laws Amendment Bill 2019, which ultimately received, I think, the assent of the President on 11th of December 2019. So companies with more than 400 crores of turnover paid tax at 34.94%. They paid MAT at around 21.55%. Of course, they had certain exemptions, certain incentives which are available. For companies which were which had a turnover of less than 400 crores, the effective tax rate after surcharge cess was 29.12%, right? And manufacturing companies ultimately paid a tax of 29.12%. So what changed when all of this happened? Sorry. Yeah. What changed? Two sections were introduced. Section 115BAA, which applied to everybody, and Section 115BAB, which applied to manufacturing companies. As far as BAA is concerned, every domestic company has an option to avail of a headline tax rate of 22%, some of the deductions we saw in Annexure 1 to this presentation have gone, right? No MAT applicable. But the important thing is you cannot, once having exercised the option, withdraw from the option. And I think that is very, very critical and very, very important. That you will have to evaluate your own position in terms of your carry forward or brought forward losses, your availability of MAT credit, etc. And then each individual company will have to take a decision based on its own facts, whether it needs to opt for this in this year or you can opt for it later. And the option is available, that there is no compulsion for a company to opt for this new regime in the first year, i.e. the year beginning 31st March 2020, year ending 31st March 2020. So the option is available at any point in time of your existence. You can exercise the option. You will have to exercise the option by filling in a prescribed form on or before the due date of your filing of return of income under section 139(1). Two incentives or deductions that are still available to you are deduction under section 80 JJAA for employment of new workmen, because that is something again which the government looks at as a key area where employment needs to get incentivized. People need jobs, and job creation is an important item on the government's agenda, right? So that continues. And of course, if you are a unit in the International Financial Services Center, which is Gift City near Gandhinagar, right, there you continue to enjoy section 80LA deduction, which is 100% of your profit for 10 years out of your 15 years, first 15 years of operation, right? That continues. But again, that is more for financial services, and we will not talk about it in any greater detail. Okay. As far as 115BAB is concerned, the headline tax rate now becomes 15%. Effective tax rate becomes 17.16%. And again, you have to be set up before 1st of October 2019. You have to commence production before 31st of March 2023, and we'll come to that in a little bit, right? But again, there is no MAT applicable. Once you exercise this option of paying 15% tax rate, that cannot be withdrawn. No other direct tax incentive is available except for section 80 JJAA. For a manufacturing concern, ATLA is not relevant, and therefore there is no question of ATLA at all, right? Again, we've spoken about commencement, we've spoken about, formed or set up on or after 1st of April, October 2019. Of course, again, here there is a split up or reconstruction condition also. The idea is to incentivize new manufacturing and not incentivize old units converting themselves into new units or splitting themselves up into an old unit and a new unit. So there is a split up and a reconstruction condition, which we've seen over the years in various other sections, section 10A, 10AA, ATI, old ATIA, etc. And also it will not use any old machinery or plant which has prior been used for any purpose. Of course, again, all the points of whether if there is a machinery or plant which has been used outside of India, can that be considered to be new plant and machinery? All of those things will still remain, and those views still continue. Again, you have to be solely engaged in the business of manufacturing or production of article or thing, including generation of activities and its related R&D, right? And we'll come to some of these conditions slightly later in terms of what they mean, right? What does manufacturing mean, etc. And of course, this is an interesting one, that you as a company do not use any building previously used as a hotel or a convention center in respect of section 80, which 80ID deduction has been claimed and allowed. So I'm not sure why somebody would want to set up a manufacturing unit in a hotel, but yes, that's the condition that has been imposed. Now to go into a little more detail of 115 BAB, qualifying taxpayer is a domestic company, as we saw. So a subsidiary of a foreign company is definitely a domestic company and it is definitely eligible. However, a branch of a foreign company is not a domestic company and therefore it is not eligible, right? Any business that you transact, and there is loosely, we've used this word trans pricing here, but basically there is a control on whether you are claiming the right deduction or whether you're allocating higher profits to this low tax paying company or unit. And therefore, it says that any business that you as a company who is eligible to deduction under section 115 BAB, you transact with any person, owing to a close connection, right, between you and that other person, will be subject to arm's length and of course will be subject to domestic transfer pricing. Term close connection has not been defined under the Act. The the term close connection has also been used under section 80I-10. But in absence of any decisions where the term close connection has been really kind of, looked at by the courts, the term will have to be understood in normal common parlance as you and I understand it. So therefore, what would happen is that, any related party that we understand certainly as per the Companies Act, or any associated enterprise as we understand under section 92 of the Income Tax Act as far as transfer pricing is concerned, they will certainly be covered. You will also probably need to look at section 48(2), where again payments made to related parties are, there is an inherent check in terms of the market value of that being allowed. So you'll have to look at all these sections and you will have to see who is closely connected to you, having regard to the facts, your relationship, and somebody who is not an associated enterprise according to transfer pricing may still come within the fold of close connection. Manufacturing, of course, as you know, has been defined under section 229B, where it is defined as change of composition of an article or thing which results in a new and distinct object or thing, right? Either with a different name or a different character and a different use. So all the decisions that you had in terms of what constitutes manufacturing, what does not constitute manufacturing will all come into play, except that now you have under section 115 BAB a negative list of items which definitely you will not be able to opt for if you do these. And these will be, and these come in, I think, a circular number 29 of 2019. These are development of computer software in any form or in any media, mining, conversion of marble blocks or similar items into slab, bottling of gas into cylinders, printing of books, production of cinematograph films, or any other business that may be notified by the central government. So, again, some of the favorable decisions, if you see, where, Supreme Courts had held that some of these items actually become manufacturing, right? Those are not eligible because the government thought that, it doesn't want to allow, those items as far as section 115 BAB is concerned. There is no sunset date for section 115 BAB, right? As long as I am set up after 1st of October 2019 and I commence my manufacturing on or before 31st of March 2023, it doesn't matter. Now, what is it that I need to do to commence my manufacturing, right? Do I say that only trial run? Do I say that production after trial run and the actual saleable product gets manufactured? Do I also require a sale to be made? And my answer to that may be that trial run again is a debatable issue. For the purposes of setup of business, certainly we will see favorable decisions as far as trial run is concerned. But I would want to take the view that you may need to produce commercially saleable items and not merely do your trial run as far as the eligibility to section 115 BAB is concerned. So therefore, after my trial run, I must actually begin to manufacture commercially saleable items. I don't need to sell those items before 31st of March 2023. I only need to manufacture and commence manufacturing those items. Okay. Again, we talked about the splitting up and restructuring conditions, right? Reconstruction conditions. The other recurring conditions are, of course, that the unit does not use any machinery or plant used for any purpose. Exception is imported assets subject to certain conditions, as we saw in all the old sections. Use of previously used plant and machinery to the extent of 20% of the value of the entire plant and machinery is permissible, as again all the other old sections say. Now, question really is, when do you need to look at the split up or reconstruction conditions? As we've seen in all the other old sections, section 80IA, etc., the condition has to be looked at only in the year of formation of the entity. So therefore, when you are formed in the first year, when in the year in which you are actually formed and you are ready, again, split up or reconstruction is a very fact-based exercise. So I would believe that you need to be ready, absolutely ready, and then only you can say you would be formed. So your machinery has to come, your key people have to be employed, all of those things have to be there, and you must be absolutely ready. That is when you would be formed. So again, the distinction between commencing of manufacturing and being formed is also something that may cause some sort of litigation, to say that I am ready, I am formed, but I have not yet commenced commercial productions. Can I say that the year of formation has to be an earlier period if I do not commence manufacturing in a particular year? And I would believe that yes, the answer to that is yes. But again, many issues. All these conditions, unfortunately, again, have seen a lot of litigation, right? And all of those old decisions that we have will be useful as far as deciding what to do is concerned. Of course, the CBDT, with the approval of the central government, can issue guidelines to remove difficulty in relation to some of these recurring conditions. Of course, these guidelines again need to be laid before each House of Parliament. But be that as it may, all of these things really will have to be looked at when we opt for 115 BAB. Again, what question arises is, what is the tax rate applicable to my other income? Because I may be engaged in the business of manufacturing or production as is required by section 115 BAB, right? But I may have certain other incidental income. Okay. And there, I will have to check what rate will this income be taxed at. And when the ordinance was promulgated, there was no clarity. But now there is a very clear proviso which has been introduced, where it very clearly says that as far as all these incomes are concerned, the rate of tax will be 22%. And no deduction or allowance in respect of any expenditure or allowance shall be allowed in computing the total income. So, question remains as to whether, if I receive dividend income, I will pay tax at 22% on the gross income, right? Very clearly. Okay. But when I distribute dividend to my shareholders, should I get Section 80M or not? And the way this proviso seems to be worded, one may have a little bit of a challenge, though one believes that this is a clear unintended anomaly, because what you get under Section 80M, and we'll see when you come to 80M at some later part of our presentation, that 80M provides for a deduction of an amount equal to the gross total income. It is not a deduction from that particular dividend income itself, right? So I would believe that there is potential to say that you might be able to claim Section 80M. But in any case, this will again stand the test of judicial scrutiny sometime. I'm sure that there will be some sort of judicial scrutiny on this one as well. Again, income which is basically profit which is derived in excess of the fair price or the arm's length price. I've used arm's length price as a very loose term here in the presentation. It actually says the fair price, the fair market value is what is actually used, and arm's length price may not necessarily be equating to fair market value, but for our understanding, I've used simply ALP. Any profit that the company derives, which is in excess of the fair market value from parties having a close connection, the tax on that will be 30%. So that income will not enjoy your 22% concessional tax rate. Though your other income like dividend, interest, rental income, which are all incidental incomes to your activity of manufacturing, will be eligible for a 22% rate. The 22% is subject to one rider, that if there is a specific rate prescribed for a particular source of income, then that source of income will enjoy the same rate of tax. For example, I have income on sale of listed securities under 112A. There, my rate will continue to be 10%. Or if I have, capital gain, say on sale of building, that will continue to enjoy the rate of 20%. Short-term capital gains, depending on, whether they are from transactions listed on the exchange or not, will continue to either enjoy 15% or 22%. So if there is a specific rate provided for a particular income, then that particular rate will continue to govern the situation. So again, too many old precedents one will have to see, because again, if you see, there are some favorite terms that we use which are derived from or incidental to the manufacturing production, right? Again, we'll have to get into all our old decisions like Sterling Food, like Pandian Chemicals, like Lakshmi Machine Works, all of these, where we'll have to see what is the difference between derived from and attributable to. Incidental again would mean any activity that has some nexus with the manufacturing activity, and not merely something which supports the manufacturing activity or is a direct consequence thereof. So therefore, you'll have to look at things like, well, interest on fixed deposit kept with margin money, or interest on overdue customer balance, or if you do AMC, then the AMC charges, right? All of those things will come into question if they are incidental to your manufacturing activity. One would believe that all of these incomes will, in my view, be incidental. But of course, one will have to, again, in this faceless era, get into some sort of a question mark or questioning with the income tax faceless authority. So let's see where we go with that. Now, some of the key conditions really, very clearly we talked about splitting up or reconstruction, so I'm not going to talk about that. I have listed down in this slide what is it that splitting up and reconstruction means in simple language. What are the key factors which will have to be established, and what is incident or what are inconsequential, right? So that we have a guideline, and I have asked the Pune branch to share this presentation with all of you so that we have some sort of guiding principle in terms of what we need to look at. Now, we've talked about this as well, that formative year or year on year, and one would believe that it has to be only in the formative year. Second-hand machinery and building, again, we talked about it briefly, but some key distinctions again, 115 BAB mandates that the company does not use any plant or machinery previously used for any purpose. So on 2 counts, the restrictions under 115 BAB are distinct in terms of that it is not a formative condition, and therefore it needs to be satisfied on a year-on-year basis, unlike our section 10A, 10AA, etc. Right? It's a very important thing that we will have to keep in mind. And it is also somewhere applicable to plant and machinery which is hired. Now, again, it becomes very difficult to say that I will hire plant and machinery which has not been used for any other purpose. How do I know the antecedent of particular plant and machinery, right? Whether it is first hand, second hand, all of those things. So this is a little bit of an onerous condition to comply. But yes, it seems to be a bit of controversial condition, because the language of the provision, as we see very, very plainly, will require you to not even use plant or machinery which has previously been used for any purpose. Again, I would personally believe that it would be better for the government to clarify that if it is a hired machinery completely, then this previously used for any other purpose condition should be relaxed. But again, 80-20, how do you determine gross value, book WDV, tax WDV, fair market value? Again, no clarity. But, I would think that it can get into a lot of controversy. But I would still believe that, one would have to take a simple, condition that it would come to the gross value, or otherwise it would become very, very difficult to comply. But again, some challenge. Now, in a way, if you see some of these conditions are very, very onerous to comply with. Again, if I, as a taxpayer, and I've taken only a few of these contentious issues, there are very, very many contentious issues. As I said, if we keep on debating them, we will overshoot the time. In any case, I believe I am running behind schedule, but I'll try and complete this as soon as possible. If the taxpayer files a declaration to opt in for the scheme prior to the due date of section 139(1), but files a belated tax return, can the benefit be denied? So I have filed the declaration within time before the due date of my filing of the return under 139(1), but I actually do not file the return under 139(1). I believe, given the language of the section, it shouldn't matter, right? It just says that I must file the declaration opting in before the due date. Okay. It is not made conditional to file the return in time, unlike certain other sections. Again, is there any difference between opt-in of 115 BAA, which is the 22%, versus BAB, which is the 15%? Yes. 115 BAA opt-in can happen in any year, as we noted, whereas 115 BAB has to be opted in the, not necessarily in the first year, but in the year of your formation. So you may be incorporated in, say, March, and all of your formation conditions get completed in, say, April or May. Then it is that year that you will have to look at. Now, does the condition of split up reconstruction, is that section applicable, or is that condition applicable in case the business is formed by discontinuing the operations in any other country. So you say that it is not formed by the split up of or reconstruction of a business already in existence. Now I had that business in existence. Admittedly, I had the business in some other country. I am now bringing it back here. Now, as far as plant and machinery are concerned, we are aware that we have some sort of a leeway. But the whole split up reconstruction condition, what happens? Well, literal interpretation actually does suggest that you may not be able to avail of 115 BAB. However, this is an anti-avoidance provision, and therefore, keeping this in spirit, one may still be able to say that, look, I am bringing in economic activity to the shores of India, which otherwise would not have come. And in that sense, as far as Indian geographical borders are concerned, it is new. But again, one more issue one will have to see. Trial run versus commercial production, I think we've seen. Does sale, that also we've seen that trial run is not necessarily commercial production and you don't need to sell, right? One of the last conditions that we will see before we come to dividend, and is that we had actually had a case study, but I think it will take time to run through the case study, and therefore we'll not go to the case study. Question really comes is that if I have a reorganization within my group, right, do I potentially lose the benefit of 115 BA or 115 BAB, 115 BAB particularly? Now, again, I could have a situation where I am a non-115 BAB company amalgamating into a 115 BAB company. What happens? As we saw, some of the user conditions we have to see year on year. So therefore, will I lose the benefit because of violation of my user of plant and machinery condition? Question mark. Answer is, as of now, one may, if you look at the literal language, lose it. Second part, I am a 115 BAB company. I amalgamate into another 115 BAB company, right? In which case one would believe that your claim for 115 BAB for the amalgamated company may be quite strong, because ultimately, really, what have I done? I have just merged two eligible companies into one, and therefore, yes, though in a way I violate some of the conditions, in the sense that I violate the split up reconstruct. I may not violate split up reconstruction. Again, amalgamated company, somebody can say, all right, after the amalgamation, there is a formation of a particular company, which I don't think is true. But I will certainly use, or I will certainly violate the user condition, right? And therefore, again, can somebody deny me the benefit of 115 BAB? I would believe no. The answer is no. Again, in a tax neutral demerger, similar question will arise. What do I do? Because ultimately the spirit behind amalgamation and demerger is to provide me tax neutrality. So these are some of the conditions. Gautam Bhai rightly mentioned that very salutary provisions, right? But riddled with a lot of questions, lot of uncertainties. Time will tell. I think the step is in the right direction, but the implementation the execution will have to be very, very closely monitored, such that taxpayers don't face challenges. We will skip this case study. This is more or less highlighting what we need to look at. Just one point one will have to, I'm just going to make one point, that when we set up a 115 BAB unit, one will also have to look at, in a way, GAR, that are you doing something for the main purpose of claiming a tax benefit, and tax benefit also includes reduction of tax. And therefore, can somebody allege that you are falling on the wrong side of the GAR provisions? I would personally believe that would be a very difficult proposition to prove as far as the revenue is concerned. The reason for that being that the government of India itself has given a particular provision for a particular purpose, the incentive is clearly being granted fully knowingly, and therefore it would be a little bit of a challenge as far as the proving of GAR is concerned. But yes, GAR again will have to be certainly looked at. Now coming to the second part of the paradigm shift, which is dividend taxation. And I'll try and wind this up in 15 minutes so that we come back to some sort of semblance of time. Earlier, as we know, prior to 1990, 1st April 1999, as Mr. Chidambaram did in his dream budget, he introduced DDT. Prior to that, the classical system of dividend used to be there, where the dividend were always taxed in the hands of the shareholders and not in the hands of the distributing company. 1999 to 2002, we had DDT for one intervening year. We didn't have DDT, financial year 2-3, I think. And then we have DDT again till, 1st of April 2020. Now, 1st of April 2020, we are now coming back to the system where dividend income is taxable in the hands of the shareholders, right? For removal of cascading effect, of course, for intercorporate dividend, one has now ATM, like you had a cascading effect removal of DDT paid. Okay, and we'll come to ATM also in a bit, right? Again, these are the rates of tax for different categories. We will not go through this. We will keep this as a reference point for all of you. As far as TDS is concerned, I just want to make one very small point that there is, for resident shareholders, there is a 5,000 rupee basic exemption limit. And that 5,000 rupee basic exemption limit in a way applies to only a particular shareholder. So what is happening typically is that any company who is distributing dividend today is not giving effect to this 5,000 rupees. The reason is that they don't know whether you've already claimed exemption, you've already earned some other dividend, etc. So it's a little bit of a challenge here in terms of this. Companies have been asking questions and there are no answers. The other part that one has to remember, particularly in case if you have FPI shareholders, and I'm sure that you are all, some of you are advisors to companies which are listed and which have FPI investments. And as far as FPI shareholders are concerned, there is a Supreme Court decision in the case of Pilcom, which now mandates the TDS to be at 20%. There, the Supreme Court has, drawn some very interesting observations. What the Supreme Court has said is that as far as the claim for treaty benefit is concerned, where a particular rate has been mentioned in a particular section, and 196D, which deals with FPIs, does not mention rates in force. It mentions a specific rate of 20%. Where a particular rate of TDS has been mentioned in the particular section itself, there the Supreme Court has said that there is no recourse available to treaty relief. The treaty relief has to be claimed by the recipient of the dividend income itself. Pilcom was not a case of dividend, it was a case of payments to sports association, where section 194E was concerned. But principle still remains the same, that the recipient will have to claim treaty benefit. Now, this has created, in a way, a lot of controversy, because that's not the understanding of the Supreme Court itself, right? Where in the old cases of Eli Lilly and GE Technologies, the Supreme Court itself said that the charging provisions and the collection mechanism form part of one integrated code. And therefore, if the payment of tax is done by way of TDS, which is at the rate applicable to that particular taxpayer, then really it doesn't matter. And therefore, one would believe that, nothing really should, in a way, come in the way of deducting tax at treaty rates. But again, this decision seems to, it has recognized and it has quoted both those two earlier decisions of Eli Lilly and GE. But the Supreme Court has gone on to say that no, the treaty relief will have to be claimed by the recipient and it will have to be claimed by filing of a return of income. So this is a cash flow issue in the hands of the shareholders who are particularly FIIs. Now, very quickly again, last maybe 5 or 10 minutes we'll spend on section 80M. When dividend, of course, became taxable in the hands of the shareholders, then there is also a provision whereby if the company who receives the dividend distributes the dividend to its shareholders, then it is eligible to a deduction equal to the amount of dividend which is distributed or the amount of dividend whichever is included in its gross total income. So there is, in a way, rollover benefit very, very loosely, right? For companies whose gross total income includes income from dividend from a domestic company or a foreign company or a business trust. Again, foreign company dividends are eligible for ATM. Yes, they are taxed at a concessional rate of 15% in the hands of the Indian company who receives them, but you will still get deduction under section ATM. So you will save that 15% if you distribute it. Now, the amount of dividend received shall be allowed as a deduction if the amount is distributed as dividend on or before the due date. And what is the due date? The due date is 1 month prior to the date of return of income under section 139(1). So again, if your due date is say 31st of January 2021 for the previous year ending 31st March 2020, then if you distribute dividend to your shareholder by 31st of December 2020, then you should be able to claim a deduction of section ATM. Of course, this applies from assessment year 2021. So, the example of January 21 and December 20 is not correct. You will have to look at, say, my due date is January 20. My due date of filing of return is November 22. Then I can distribute dividend up to October 22. Again, there is no parity between the class of dividend to be distributed. So I can earn foreign company dividend and I can distribute and I will be able to get a deduction. I can earn preference dividend, distribute equity dividend. I can earn equity dividend, distribute preference dividend, no problem. Timing again is not an issue. I can distribute earlier, right? The last date of my distribution to my shareholders is 1 month before the due date of filing of my return. I can distribute the dividend earlier. I can earn my dividend later. I am still eligible to the deduction. There is no problem at all. Okay. Again, what is distribution is defined by Punjab Distilleries 57 ITR 1, where actual or constructive payment by way of journal entries, where the shareholder actually receives an irrevocable right to receive dividend is also, fine as far as distribution of dividend is concerned for ATM purposes. I can receive dividend in kind and distribute dividend in cash. I cannot receive dividend in cash and distribute dividend in kind because that is not permitted under the Companies Act. But I can certainly receive dividend in kind and distribute cash up to my shareholders, and I will still get a deduction to the extent of the fair market value of whatever I have received as dividend by way of my foreign company asset, for example. Again, actual receipt may not be necessary. The dividend will have to be taxable in accordance with Section 8. As we know, Section 8 says, again, we'll not get into Section 8, but there could be a case where the dividend may be approved by the general meeting of the company on a particular date, which may be before the close of a particular financial year. The actual dividend may be received after the end of the financial year. You may have the dividend, the share become ex-dividend on the stock exchange on a third date, and you'll have to see which date you will have to take. Practically, as far as at least most people are concerned, they look at the date on which the share became ex-dividend on the stock exchange. Now, 2 or 3 issues. Can I claim ATM on gross dividend? So if I have 100 rupees of dividend income, I have interest of 20 rupees. Sorry, I should have also mentioned that the dividend, as far as the deduction from dividend is concerned, you are not eligible for any other deduction as far as expenses are concerned, except to the extent of interest that you pay. And that interest that you pay is also limited to 20% of the gross amount of dividend. So I cannot claim a deduction for administrative charges, etc., etc. All that I can claim is a deduction for interest. That interest deduction is not like house property, a standard deduction. I will have to show that I have paid interest, but there is a cap, there is a ceiling on the interest income to the extent of 20% of my dividend income. Yeah. So that's the way it'll kind of pan out. So going back to our example, sorry, I don't know whether sorry, just one moment. I think I'll have to stop and reshare. Give me a moment, please. Yeah. So, if I have 100 rupees of dividend income and I have 20 rupees of expense, then can I claim a deduction of 100 or can I claim a deduction of 80 even though I upstream 100? And 2 views are possible. A view also is that you can claim a deduction of 100 because that is what is included in your gross total income. I would believe that the better view is still that you should claim a deduction of 80 and not claim a deduction of 100. You could have interesting scenarios here where you could have the expense actually set off against some other head of income, as we have seen here in scenario 2. In which case, I believe here in scenario 2, since you can set off the expense against some other source of income, your business, etc., there one would be able to claim a deduction of 100. But again, one will have to take care in terms of how one computes that deduction. Again, foreign tax credit and dividend income, I'm not going to spend too much time. I believe that you can either claim foreign tax credit or you can claim a deduction under Section 80M. You will not be able to claim both, right? And once you will not be able to claim both, then it's a little bit of a challenge. But yes, that's how the cookie crumbles. You can't take a double benefit. Dividend, an allowance of interest expense. Can I claim the balanced interest that I have as a deduction against certain other income? So I know that I have 20, which I have claimed against dividend. Say I have paid an interest of rupees 50. I have claimed 20 against dividend income received of 100. Can I claim the balance 30 against some other income? And that will again, in my view, be dependent on the facts of the case. In appropriate circumstances, one may still be able to claim that. Yeah, with that, can I then, if somebody has any questions, let me, take questions. Sorry for rushing through this, but I think we needed to get back on track as far as time is concerned. And I can see Chetan Bhai waiting. So I wouldn't want to eat into his time. Thank you very much for a patient hearing and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Anish sir. I really thank you on behalf of the entire organizing team at the Pune branch. We also have that Q&A panel which is open for the participants. If the questions come in, maybe we can address them. But it really means a lot. And really thank you for sharing the presentation with the participants. We have kindly agreed to share this with the participants. So we'll be uploading this at the Pune branch website as well. Thank you so much, sir.
And if any participants do have any query, please let them get in touch with me. Happy to resolve.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
And we also have that Q&A tab open throughout the sessions. So the
Sure.
participants' questions would be forwarded to you. Thank you so
Sure,
much.
sure.
It means
Thank
a
you very
lot, sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And now heading towards the session on fraud and fraud detection and prevention. We are fortunate to have with us CA Chetan Dalal, sir, the speaker for the day, and our Central Council member, CA Srinivas Joshi, sir. So may I please request Srinivas Joshi, sir, for his opening remarks, and then I introduce Chetan, sir, for the session ahead.
Thank you, Amruta. Chetan Dalal, sir, our guru in fraud detection for the whole decade or more than decade. And of course, I also see Dinesh Gandhi, the past chairman of Pune branch, there in the list of attendees, surprisingly. And then so many other members whom I know. Today's topic, without going into much of this, today's topic, this is a session on duty, obligation, and responsibility of chartered accountants. And we are talking about detection of fraud. To talk, I wanted to talk before Chetan Dalal, sir, because to talk after him is very difficult. Once he talks on that subject, we will be floored. I mean, the way he actually does this work for a number of years. So let us talk in theory what we are supposed to do. In practice, what we have to do, he will tell us in his speech. I have heard him several times in the past. This particular subject, I would say, Amrita, as Amrita Kulkarni, as our elected member of Pune branch, young, dynamic, and I would say very bold lady from Pune. I will just tell you that this to the participant that many times we feel that whether there is a third sense required to find a fraud when we are talking of fraud, because therefore whether it is an art or whether it is a science. We have discussed this many times that with all accounting standard, auditing standard, guidance note, ESC opinions, whether it's a science, with all that, whether I can still find a fraud or whether it needs a third sense like Chetan Dalal sir, where he always gets, what others miss. So whether that is where he will explain us today what it is really and how to go about it, about our duty, obligation and responsibilities. If we ask how many frauds were actually found by auditors, I was told only 1.5%. So if 98.5% frauds are to be found by internal auditors and not by statutory auditors or forensic auditors, then what is really the role? Then it becomes our duty and obligation, responsibility, very serious. I mean, then why we are not able to get is a big question which our able speaker will answer. Friends, detection of fraud is once the fraud is detected, it's a threat to survival maybe of enterprise itself, and many times of course the survival of CA as a professional there. Coming to the legal part of it on the fraud, I would only say that we have to see so many things in company law. It's section 143 subsection 12. We have to see
You
Caro.
were calling, sorry, I was presenting some Pune WIRC.
Anish bhai, please. Anish bhai, please be on mute. Anish bhai, please be on mute.
Okay. दूसरा ग्रुप है क्या, उसमें ज्वाइन करूं?
Anish sir, may I please request you to please mute the mic?
So coming to our work, section 143 subsection 12 of Companies Act, Caro, point number 10, that tells us about how to report fraud. But if you really, there is a good guidance note by Institute of Chartered Accountant on what is the difference between the two, and I will not explain it here, but you have to read the guidance note to see what we report under section 143 and what we report under Caro. Of course, SA 240 gives us a lot of guidance on fraud. And SA 240, that is Standard on Auditing 240, talks of two kinds of fraud. One is misappropriation of asset, which all of us know that it is embezzlement of cash received from debtors. So many things like stealing intellectual property or introduction of fictitious vendors or fictitious employees. All this we have read. But it tells us about the fraudulent financial reporting. And this is where Satyam case or other cases, ILFS, these are actually financial reporting frauds. There was no cash frauds really, or there was no whiling away asset. Here it was either alteration or falsification of records or documents or misrepresentation of events, transaction, information. And that is where we need to read SA 240 to understand that kind of fraud, because this kind of fraud is where the expectation of the society from us is very high about our obligation as chartered accountants. In fact, friends, there is a big expectation gap between what society wants and what we are delivering. It is said that it is a perception of user of financial statement that audit will prevent, detect, and report fraud. That is what they feel. And what auditors feel? Profession never presumed that this is a function. This function is an objective of audit of financial statement. We concentrate ourselves on maybe compliance and other parts, but not on fraud. Actually, it is very difficult. Why only 1.5% statutory auditors find fraud is because auditors' ability to detect fraud depends on several things. One is, of course, the skillfulness of the people who do fraud. More skillful he is, less likely that you will get it. Now, frequency and extent of manipulation, because frequency, if it is more frequent, at least one incidence you get, then you get something. But if it is only one time, it's very difficult. Extent of manipulation, now if the amount manipulated is very high, probably it will come in your sample, but otherwise it's very difficult. And therefore the forensic auditors do not use sample, they run the whole data. And you will listen it from Dalal sir, I've listened it how they use the whole data to get the fraud out and not on this. Now, seniority of the individual involved is also material, because more senior the person is, very less likely that you will get a fraud. Now, when as an auditor, I have to be cautious. When there are opportunities for fraud in a particular organization, I have to be very cautious, and my obligation is to look for such opportunities where then I should do how I do my work is different. Now, for example, if there is a significant related party transaction, there can be a problem there. If there is a large cash transaction in an organization, it can have a possibility of a fraud. If there are easily convertible assets from into cash, then there can be a fraud. Inadequate segregation of duties is a possibility that there can be a fraud. Inadequate oversight of expenditure can be a fraudulent area. So all we have to know. That means what we have to do? We have to be having a professional skepticism while doing the audit. And professional skepticism will need us to under contradictory evidences we get in the audit. Confirmation is different, the balances are different, maybe reliability of the document we don't accept, etc. Now, how we face it, how we do this, if we have this problem, how we do our responsibility, we must have surprise visit. In fact, the unpredictability in the timing and extent of audit procedure is something I must do. Unpredictability, that is the, now chartered accountant suppose is not looking at figure less than 5 lakhs, then there no fraud can be done below that figure. So unpredictability is I check even a 10 rupee transaction, 100 rupee, lakh rupee, 10,000, everything I check in my, so maybe it is unpredictable. They never thought of it. Now, can we say that with all that, I will always find fraud? No. The reasons are many, of course. The risk is not eliminated. It can only be reduced. It can never grow. This suppose all audit procedure I can apply it, but problem is still because of inherent limitations in audit or limitations of audit, we will not be able to get the risk of detection of fraud to zero. It will always be a possible that it is there. Of course, there are several types of frauds. If you read the books written by Chetan Dalal sir, I'm a fan of him. I have bought all the books and I read them. I have read a whole of his series in Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, which was running for more than 5 years. And that gives a fantastic idea as to how the fraud is done, then what auditor really tried to do and why he did not get it. Then he says, what should have been done by the auditor to get it? I mean, this is where the guidance is to all of us. And therefore, I'll request you to read his books, as well as request. There is one book written by Information Technology Committee of ICAI, where I was a convener those, and it is revised also. It is on early warning signals of fraud. Actually, this is regarding bank audit. It is on the fraud. The RBI has given us on a circular on fraud, and that particular one has an annexure, and that on that annexure we have written a book on early warning signals of fraud in banking system. But I think that is also one of the finest publication that we have, and I thank all the contributors to that. And we have also written there on IT frauds. I did not deliberately talk on IT frauds, even though they are extremely important, because Chetan Dalal sir is somebody who will talk on that so nicely that it is not right for any other person to talk on IT frauds. Today he is so well versed, very well known. I was with the Maharashtra government EOW for making a panel of chartered accountant. That time also we know that how much he helps police department in many times to get all these things. And so all these people are, connected to government in many ways, all these people who are in forensic audit and others, and we are very proud of them as chartered accountant. So I salute you, sir, Chetan Dalal sir, for all your contribution to the profession. And I request you to start this, and whatever I said you can ignore if you want, if you feel that your lecture is completely different on our duties and responsibilities of chartered. But with that, sir, thanks a lot for Amruta for giving me opportunity to talk to the participant. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Joshi sir, for joining in and giving your insights. And to take the session based on the theme, which is duty, obligation, and responsibility, rightly said by Joshi sir, that to stay relevant for the youngsters and the professionals of this era, the IT frauds are very much relevant, and we really look forward for the session and how important it is to have that investigative mind bend, as was rightly introduced in the beginning by Joshi sir. We are extremely fortunate to have with us CA Chetan Dalal sir, who is a prolific speaker. Frankly, he doesn't really need that introduction because he is forensic audit guru, rightly said. He is a global investigation specialist operating from Mumbai. In the past, he has served on the board of the India chapter of Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. He was also a member of the managing committee of India Merchants Chamber Banking Finance and Insurance Committee. He was also on the editorial board of the UK-based magazine Inside Fraud. He has conducted first ever certification course for CAs, and this course is now recognized by the banks for empaneling forensic accountants. He conducts workshops and training programs across the globe. He is a prolific author and speaker at national and international forums. His research articles and contributions have been published in the ICAI journals and BCAS journals and Economic Times also. He has inspired so many professionals to pursue this certification course. So the guru is himself with us. So I request you, Dalal sir, to please take the session ahead. He will be talking on fraud detection and prevention. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Amruta and Srinivas. Sometimes I feel I'm a different person when I come to seminars like this, when I hear all these things. And that is perhaps the first lesson in fraud for all the 300-400 people who have come here, that it is very easy to, show 10 qualifications and, all this talk and all that. But people should know me personally to know how bad I am. So for whatever these people are saying, I'm really grateful. But this is your first lesson in fraud. Don't believe any of these introductions anywhere in the world, because they are just paper introductions. The reality is today at maybe 6 o'clock, where how many of you go with a headache, or how many of you go back with some kind of maybe a reproach to the institute saying that, where did you get Mr. Dalal? We are completely, what shall I say, disappointed. Or not. So we will come to know at 6 o'clock. But nevertheless, it's a big thank you both to Srinivas and to Amruta, because such words of such kind words are always a pleasant feeling, and it's really appreciated. Thank you so much. And I must also thank Anish ji. I think I was very fortunate that I came in much earlier for the session, and I was really what shall I say, impressed. The clarity and the lucidity with which he explained the tax provisions, 115 BA and all that. I really enjoyed it, and I only wish I could have come earlier. So thank you, Anish bhai. I think it was a lesson for me too. I don't know whether you're there. Are you still there? If so, anyway.
I'm
But
very
do
much here,
convey my
Chetan Bhai.
my
Looking
gratitude.
forward to listening to you. I'm very much here. I'm just not on video. Here I am. See.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too.
So thank you so much. So we'll get on straight away with the session. Before I start, Amruta, about how much time should I really be speaking for so that I can try and plan my session accordingly?
So
How
the
much time do you think?
entire, whatever time you are comfortable, we would like to hear you for entire day, sir.
Oh God, that is
As
a
per
very
your
good thing.
convenience.
I,
As per
I
your
want to
convenience.
start with what Srinivas said earlier, that he wanted to speak before me so that, it would be better for him. But actually, in my house, it's the reverse case because see, my wife never allows me to speak before her. I always have to go towards the end. So for me, this is an outlet. I get to speak so much over here. So I'm quite used to speaking last. And only thing is, I don't know how well it's going to come across, but I'm going to make an effort. So about an hour would be all right, correct? I think the original scheduled time was 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we'll try to make it complete within that much time.
Yes, sir.
So, friends, I believe that we are now in a different world. I think last 7-8 months, I don't need to describe them. Life has changed. We are in a world where moving out, social distancing, working from home, all these have become the new norms. And though, of course, people say that very soon a vaccine will come, very soon the remedies will be available. I personally do not see any light at the end of the tunnel where I think that we will go back to what we were in January 2020. If it does, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that it's really going to, that life is going to come back that easily. But be that as it may, it's always good to be optimistic, and I do hope it does. But friends, I want to start with a small story, which is very apt in a situation like this. I heard this in some spiritual discourse, and I was very impressed by it. So I thought this is a very correct forum to talk about this. You see, it's a story of a very average, mediocre person who was, walking on the beach. He was completely dismayed with life because he didn't have anything much to look forward to. And it was very early in the morning. Dawn had not broken through. It was a little dark, but he was walking on the river side or the bedside of the river. And suddenly tripped and fell over something, and he got very annoyed. Okay, what is it? Somebody has thrown something. It was a small little bag with some stones inside. He couldn't see them, but he was very upset with it. And what he did was he sat on the beach over there and he started throwing the stones one by one into that river and waiting for dawn to break through. And he was just aimlessly passing his time, cursing life, cursing all the obstacles, cursing that bag over which he tripped. And very soon, in 15-20 minutes, the first rays of the sun broke through. It was dawn, and a little bit of light came across. And he looked at the bag inside. And now he could see the contents of the bag. There was just one stone left. But friends, what that stone was? It was a gold nugget. It was a real gold nugget. And he suddenly realized that he had thrown away all those precious gold stones, not realizing what they were, but cursing them to be an obstacle to him. And he had thrown them away into the river, and only the last one was left. Now, friends, this is something that happens to all of us in life. We sometimes curse at the difficulties, the challenges, the obstacles that come in. Like take, for example, this COVID situation. There are many people who say that because of this, business is slowed down. Because of this, we are not able to do so many things. Because of this, work from home, we are not able to earn or eke out a living. True, there is no doubt. It is something which is a challenge, something which is an obstacle. It is something which definitely is not wanted, but it is there. You have to accept it. But friends, if you accept it and use it to capitalize for the betterment, like for example, if you use this to learn new things, to do some more research, to try out new things, if you do this, you will automatically remove yourself from stagnation, which may still have been there had the original good situation continued. In fact, you take this as a reason for you to resurrect yourself. I have learned so many new things in these last 7-8 months that I'm really sort of now looking at this, had this lockdown not come, perhaps I would have not done all these things. So friends, it is just a simple suggestion that don't worry, these difficulties are there, they come, they are a part of life. But if you are a good professional, if you are a good human being, they will be only helpful in making you stronger. So I'll explain this with a few examples also during the course of my talk. And with this, I'll just start my presentation. May I share my screen, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm just sharing. I'll just try it out first. Let me see if my screen is my screen visible now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So we are going to talk about fraud detection and prevention. I think this is a very apt subject that the Pune ICAI WIRC branch has picked up for this, because I think in the times to come, this is going to be a major opportunity for us chartered accountants. In fact, I don't think that day is very far where just as you have a Caro report, which is a part of the integrated report in the financial statements, you'll probably have a forensic report also. It may be a small module, but it may also be a necessary part which will come in the foreseeable future. So if you are getting into the group right now, the better it is for you, and particularly for the youngsters, the people who are in practice or who have still a long road ahead. I think that this is an area of tremendous opportunity. And friends, the starting point on this, what I would really recommend is that you need to adapt and do some out of the box thinking. As I said, if you stagnate, you will go nowhere. Whatever be, whether you're doing only taxation or audit, or you're doing consultancy investments, whatever you may be, unless you do an adaptation of the given situation and the ability to use new things, look at life differently, you will not succeed, friends. I mean, it will not give you a sense of fulfillment. Charles Darwin has said that it is not the strongest or the fittest which really survives in the long-term period, nor is it that which is the most intelligent which survives in the long-term period. They may survive, but not in the long-term period. It is only that species which adapts to the changing condition, and that, friends, is the reality of life. So let's look at this in today's agenda within this 1 hour that we have. I'm going to try to do all this if it is doable, but if not, please do feel free. I'll give my email reference and all. Please do feel free to write to me, and I'll be happy to give you more material on the other chapters which I may miss out. So first and foremost, I'm just going to very quickly give you a glimpse of some of these simplistic looking documents, exhibits that you may come across in your everyday life, but you may not realize that there is fraud in that. So I'll just give you a fraud scenario initially, just to bring you into this world. Then I'm going to talk about some new tools that I have discovered in the recent past, which, as I said, since you're working from home, you can even download these from the net. You can even try them out. You will find yourself being very happy because you've got new things to do and you'll be able to achieve something new. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools that we use. Then there are two strong tenets which are very useful in becoming a good professional, a good auditor, and definitely for the purpose of detection and prevention of fraud. So we will talk a little about that. If we have time, we can also talk a little more on steganography, its impact on audit and day-to-day documents that we use, and a test which I've been using for the last 8-10 years, which is what I term as a juxtaposition test. So I'm going to try and talk about all as much of this as is possible, depending on the time that I have. All right. So one thing is very important, as I'm sure most of you must be seeing Hollywood or Bollywood films, right? So in that, remember in the beginning, there is a small little disclaimer which says that anything, any exhibition, any person referred to in this presentation, any organization, any entity, any name, is purely for demonstrative or academic purposes, and it doesn't mean that there was any fraud or any wrongdoing done by that. So please, in case some name or some exhibit shows the name of some firm or some company or some entity, please just take it as a demonstrative part of this. And nowadays, of course, I have to say this also, no animals have been harmed while making this presentation, but I do not know what can happen to human beings after this 1 hour session. So in the fraud scenario, let me just show you very quickly what are the different kinds of documents that you see, sometimes some information that you rely upon as auditors. So I'm just going to very quickly go through, because I don't want to spend too much time explaining them, but I'm sure you will realize that these are those commonplace documents. So this is a simple thing like balance confirmation from a bank. Okay, every auditor would definitely know what a balance confirmation. This is a simple backbone in any audit, which is the bank statement. This is a typical case of a will, a will which has been made. You may come across a document like this, maybe when you are meeting or discussing with your clients. Nowadays, things are coming in spreadsheets. So you may see some data in a spreadsheet. So this is what a spreadsheet really looks like. Now, this is something which is now the things for the future. You are going to have ERP system, SAP system, or Oracle system, or JD Edwards. These are the things, the big systems which we'll have to now talk with and interface with. So this is a typical snapshot of a screen of a SAP data. Then this is a very simple thing where you have simple reports, which could be made in Excel or PDF or whatever, but this is a typical example of a report. In the earlier days, we used to have such kind of cash receipts. So I'm also taking both something from the past, something from present as well. So this is something which is what you may come across. This is a cancelled check. These are minutes of meetings. This is a typical photo or a picture, like this is used for identities, for KYCs, and so on. Then this is a new thing now, because a lot of evidence is now available as a video footage or a CCTV footage. Like this is a particular case where evidence was given to us in the form of a CCTV footage for an insurance claim for stocks lost by fire. So now we have to contend with this kind of information as well. Now, I just showed you very quickly a series of different kinds of documents that we all come across. Now, if you honestly tell me, most of you would have felt that these are very routine, innocuous looking documents, and that possibly, if required, we would have relied upon or used them for any of our audit evidences. But friends, the shocking truth is that each and every one of those exhibits that I showed you was extracted or was sort of made from something where fraud existed in a big way. All those different exhibits were actually looking simple, were the way we saw it. Maybe we might have just changed a name or something, but they were very innocent looking documents, but each of them were connected or altered or fraud or forged, or in some way they were used to perpetrate a fraud. Now, friends, this is the basic understanding, the window to the world of fraud, that we are dealing with people who are intellectually very strong. We are dealing with wrongdoers who are not thieves or terrorists who depend on some weapon. Like a terrorist may depend on a gun or a bomb. A thief may depend on his tools. A burglar or somebody else may depend on a knife or some other weapon to threaten and get money. Here in this particular world, there is no weapon except the mind. And it is an intelligent mind. And if we are all honest with ourselves, I would say most of these white-collar criminals are far more intelligent than even all of us. It is unfortunately the truth, because you cannot commit a fraud unless you have a basic intelligence to see the opportunity, to see or perceive the safety limit, and to be able to perpetrate it in a manner where not many people realize it. Now, this, friends, is the reason why even as auditors, whether we are responsible or not, I'm not going into that discussion, but I'm saying we do have access to the books of account, we do have access to information, we do have access to some of these documents, but we don't realize that some of these frauds are there in front of us. They're glaring at us. In fact, I'll be honest with you people, is that some of these exhibits which I may have listed out, I don't think that we or my team also at first glance we could make out that this was the fraud, or these were fraudulent documents, even though we are supposed to be people who day in and day out deal with fraud. Yes, this is the element of risk, and I will not blame an auditor unless, of course, he has not performed his processes, not performed his audit plans properly, or that he has been negligent. Then that's a different thing. But otherwise, even for a good auditor, it is possible to miss this out. So now we are going to look at some few things which can increase or enhance the chances of us detecting or even helping the management to prevent fraud. Now, what are the traits that we must really strengthen? There are two traits which, from my experience in the last, I've been in this world of fraud examination specifically for about 23 years, though I passed in 83, which is about 37 years ago, but I've done fraud investigation for about 2.5 decades approximately. In that, I feel that distrusting the obvious and applying a 3D vision, they go hand in hand. And if you are able to cultivate this mindset, even if you're just auditors, even if you're not investigators, believe you me, friends, your ability to do a more penetrative audit will enhance significantly. And let me just show you by means of an example. I always take this in my sessions because this is the best way to prove it. Now, friends, if you look at this picture very closely, or even not very close, very even casually, your brain will tell you that all the horizontal lines are slanting in different directions, random directions. Some line is slanting upwards, some line is straight, some line is downwards, and so on. Your brain tells you that these are very randomly placed lines in this, but your brain will never admit to you that all the horizontal lines are perfectly parallel, isn't it? Friends, you ask yourself, ask your eyes, even though you may know the reality, I'm saying your eyes will tell you and your brain will agree with your eyes that all these lines are completely randomly sloping. Now, what is the reason? I do a lot of reading of scriptures and all that. They say that our human mind has a lot of defects, even right from the time we are born. We have negative emotions like hatred, jealousy, anger, all these kind of emotions which are there in our mind. They are like black things or black dots or blemishes in our human nature, which curb our ability to judge. Therefore this black color symbolizes our negative emotions. If you remove the black color, just see what happens. Take a look. When I remove the black color, the lines become and are very clearly seen as completely parallel. Now this, friends, is the reality of life. Okay, what we see in our brain is a combination of not only what you actually see, what your sense tells you, but also a lot of things which are built inside your emotions, past prejudices. All these things come together, and because of that, your judgment is always crowded. The moment your emotions run through you, you will see the lines as completely non-parallel. This is the unfortunate truth of life. And therefore, one of my first suggestions is, of course, not something that I can professionally say, but I can say possibly as a friend to you all, that even if you do 5 or 10 minutes of meditation means just thinking of some god, whichever religion you may believe in, a mantra, maybe Gayatri mantra or some other mantra, or whichever religion you follow, for 10 minutes, it is virtually going to clean up your mind. It will make your mind so strong that when you come out of that, you will find that your ability to think, your ability to do whatever you are doing will exponentially increase. The second important trait that a good fraud investigator or a good auditor, or for that matter, a good human professional should do is to apply a 3D vision. Now, what is this example of a 3D vision? But that is that in today's world, do not accept any single piece of information as the ultimate truth. Okay. If the bank statement is showing that this is the balance, this is fine. We've been doing this. I'm taking this example because all of you are familiar with this. Normally, you will confirm this with a bank confirmation letter. You will independently ask the bank and say, okay, as on 31st of March, can you please confirm the balance? Even though the bank statement has that balance, you will want to confirm it with another corroborative piece of evidence which you can rely on. That is known as using multiple sources or using a 3D vision to see a piece of evidence from multiple different sides. When you get into this habit of doing it, wherever you can do it, you will find that your ability to distinguish between right and wrong will improve. Like say, for this can be done even for debtors verifications, creditors verifications. Why do we write all these letters? We already know we have a ledger accounts which are supported by all the sales, purchase, bills, etc. But we still ask for it because we want to see whether there is something that the eyes have missed out or misunderstood. And that way, there are a series of different ways. For those of you who are interested, please do write to me. I can tell you a series of different things that you can do to have multiple sources of verifying certain basic information that an auditor requires for his audit. And this automatically helps in detection and prevention of fraud as well. Now, in this current situation where we are talking about work from home, what is the meaning of work from home? Today, you cannot go out to your office, you cannot visit a client's place, you cannot do a lot of things by actually visiting this place. Well, I'm saying, in a way, look at it positively, As I said, take this as an advantage. Supposing you're staying somewhere at Virar or somewhere, like I'm using the example of Bombay, a distance suburb which is more than an hour away from your office, you're losing 2 hours in a day only to commute to your office and go back. Instead of that, you have those 2 hours extra. Do some research. Today, your internet will give you tons and tons and tons of different tools. Most of them are free, and even those which are chargeable are of such what shall I say, or relevantly, I mean, such low charges like 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000, for which you can get some information, some increases your ability to view data, to be able to do your work well. So I'm going to show you some examples of a couple of tools which you can use in your audit. Say, for example, now we are doing an audit and you are looking at something like travel claims. Now, usually one of the strongest pieces of evidence for a travel claim is what we call a boarding pass, right? Now, when you say that, okay, Chetan Dalal has traveled or Mr. Mahesh has traveled from so-and-so place to so-and-so place, usually you will reimburse that claim or you will agree with that claim that it is a genuine claim only if the boarding pass is given, isn't it? Because boarding pass is the ultimate proof that a person has traveled. Now, if you look at this, let's say this is a boarding pass given by somebody. Now, even this, friends, can be forged, can be recreated on a computer. Today you get printers, today you get paper, today you get tools which can help you to create virtually any kind of paper. So to create a boarding pass is not impossible. Again, I'm going very hypothetical. Supposing you want to check whether some boarding passes are clear. Now, the matter is very simple. There are tools that are available on the net. Am I supposed to answer questions middle or can I answer later? Because I see two participants have raised hands. Amrita, can you advise?
No, sir, you can take it at the end. You please carry on as per your please.
Okay, okay. But I'm audible, no?
Yes, sir,
people are
perfectly audible. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right, thanks. So supposing this boarding pass is there, right? Now, what you can do is nowadays, you can get tools which you can download on a mobile. Like say, for example, you can get a QR code scanner. This again, it's very simple. Most probably, I think this is a free thing. I don't remember. But even if it is chargeable, I don't think it will be a very huge amount. You install this. So once you install this, you will get, as you can see, you will get an icon on your screen on the cell phone. Now, once you go into that, all that you need to do is just scan that particular barcode or that QR code, which is there on that particular boarding pass. When you do that, friends, it is a matter of minutes that you will be able to find out what is written and whose boarding pass is it. So over here, now if you can see that this is the answer that you get. It says that this boarding pass belong to Mahesh Bhatki, whereas the actual name that is given in this is by Mitesh Thambi. So what you find is that this boarding pass has been a falsified boarding pass because that QR code does not match with the name and the other details in that. This is, of course, a very simplistic example that I'm giving you. But in this manner, now what you can do is you can download any tool, anything that helps you to do your audit better. Even if you're working from home, doesn't matter. These things can be done from here. Today, I believe that even in Tally, you can now upload documents. So a client can upload all the documents, the expenses, the sales, the details and all that. You can download them sitting at your house. You can apply these tests and maybe you might be able to come up with things which are wrong. Now, tell me, friends, is this really difficult? Even though an auditor is not expected to detect fraud, I agree with, as I said, I am not into a debate whether we are responsible, not responsible and all that. That's something different. But I'm saying if as a part of your audit, you can also perform this particular function so simply. Today, a client will only like you if you come up with something and say, look, there are some 10 boarding passes where we find that something like this is happening or this is happening. And for you, the additional effort is minuscule. There is hardly any additional effort, hardly anything more that you have to do. But if you do that, you will endear yourself to the client better. You will have served the nobility of our profession. It is believed that like doctors, even we chartered accountants come from a noble profession. And we are here to preserve the resources of our society. So if we can contribute to that in any way, please, friends, please do this. Please keep this in mind. So this tool is just an illustration. It doesn't mean you have to download this tool. There will be other tools as well. Now I'm going to go with a slightly more serious note in the sense that in the current times, one of the major fears, particularly if you're doing bank audits or some kind of concurrent reviews for banks or maybe for police or for RBI or for other things, money laundering has become a very, very unfortunate reality in today's times. And for money laundering, there are what we call KYCs in every organization, whether it's a bank, insurance company, stockbrokers, where large sums of money are usually used. There is always always a system of identification of clients. Now, it is very correct that clients have to be identified through KYC, which the full form of which, as we all know, is know your client. Because the antecedents and the identity of the client must be established. It should not be somebody who's involved in wrongdoing, narcotics, drug trafficking, guns trafficking, and all that. People try to use banks or some other places to launder their ill-gotten gains. Now, this KYC, friends, I'm sure as auditors, as people who are experienced in this world of performing tax audits, internal audits, and other audits, you must have all done a lot of audits relating to documents. Like, say, for example, if you're doing a KYC audit for a bank, I'm sure you will have data which includes names, addresses, phone and cell numbers, passport details, Aadhaar cards, PAN cards. These are all checked by you. You may also be good in Excel. You may be able to find out duplicate PAN numbers. You may be able to find out duplicate Aadhaar numbers, duplicate addresses. All these, I'm pretty certain that you must be very good at, and you must do it. I agree. But that's a documentary check. There is one part of the check which is very difficult for us to do, at least at this stage, and that is what? Photographs. Let's presume that Chetan Dalal is a money launderer, okay? And if Chetan Dalal wants to open accounts in 3-4 different names, I can perhaps get a fake passport or a fake Aadhaar card or a fake PAN number. So I can use different PAN numbers and different names in different banks or in different accounts in a bank also, in different names. Like I can open an account in the name of Chetan Dalal, in the name of Srinivas, in the name of not Amruta, but in the name of any other man. And I can, in that case, give all these documents, but I will have to give photographs of my own self. And usually photographs are very difficult to give somebody else's photograph. Like I can't give Srinivas's photograph to open an account in his name. I'll have to give my own account. It's very difficult to believe that somebody else's photograph will be palmed off in such a case. So now the question remains is, if we are doing a KYC audit, the documentary checks we may do and we may not find anything. But the place where you may find something wrong is what? The photographs. Now, is there a way to find out whether the same photograph appears for different names? Let's say you have 5,000 savings bank account in some Pune branch somewhere, okay? And the bank has taken and scanned all those copies and everything, the full KYC data is available in a soft form. So how will you check? Even if you have the whole folder, can you do it manually? Impossible. I'm telling you, if I give you even 30 photographs, and put them on your computer in a folder and ask you, okay, just see how many duplicates can you find out from there? It'll be well nigh impossible to do that. In this situation, we did some research, and friends, we found that there was one program which was available, one application which was available, which was called a virtual image duplication finder. For those of you who are interested, it is available on the net. I think it was some small amount of 3,000-4,000 that I paid for it, but it's an excellent tool. And by the way, I'm not canvassing for that tool. There are many other tools like that. If you just search for image duplicate finder, something like that, if you use keywords on that, you will find maybe several such applications available. And please download any of them. The idea is we should be familiar what we are capable of in these days. So what I did was I collected some photographs from my family members. Plus I also included some JPG files, like you can see 2 Lakshmi pictures on the top, right? So I just tried to put all visual images, because these are not something that we can audit in an Excel sheet. These are those kinds of data where if you want to perform any audit operations, it is not very easy. So I researched the net and we found that a program or an application called the Visual Similarity Duplicate Image Finder. I don't know whether you can see it, but I'm just putting my cursor on that. If this is the name which I downloaded. And this is the kind, once you install it, this is the kind of screen that you have. Now, in the screen, on the lower bottom right corner, you will find that there is a place where you can add a folder, if you can see this. So all that this program requires you to do is to identify where on your computer or on which drive the data of visual images is there. So once you do it, then what happens is, like I have it on my C drive in users, I have this particular file which I showed you where those 70 images were kept. So once it identifies that, then this Visual Similarity Duplicate Finder now knows that it has to look for whatever we want, say duplicates, in that particular folder. Now the simple thing, and friends, it's so simple with today's advance in technology. If you can see right at the bottom, there is that green arrow which says Start Scan. That's all that you have to do. You don't have to be IT savvy. You don't have to be an expert in technology, nothing of the kind. And if you press that within a matter of seconds, for me, I'm saying seconds because there were just 40 photographs, but 70 photographs. But if let's say there are 5,000 photographs, it may take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. But you will be able to get on the center of the screen the results of different activities, I mean, different duplicates that they have found, that the application finds. So this program, friends, this application is something which I did and which I feel is very useful in even offering this service to banks, to share brokers, to insurance companies, or to any other organization where they want to find out if some kind of a duplication of a visual data has to be done. Then friends, we have a new tool over here. Why not use this? Now, this tool is not very simple either. I mean, you can do advanced things. Somebody may say that, Mr. Dalal, see, supposing you have two photographs of yourself, one photograph which you have taken today and one photograph which is, let's say, a year old. There will be some difference. The color background may be different, features, hair, there may be some change and all that. So what about that? So this program, if you can see somewhere just above that green arrow, if you see over here, can you see the similarity percentage? It also allows you to define the level of the similarity or the resemblance that you want. So you can say 80% similarity is also acceptable to you, 70% is also acceptable to you, 60% is also acceptable to you. But then please don't go below 50%, otherwise you'll get all multiple different kinds of people. But there has to be some degree of a large lion's share should be similar. And a small part of dissimilarity is permissible. So once you do that, you can define that percentage. And friends, all that you have to do is just press this and presto, you get all the details. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every answer, but if you just see the three bottom images at the bottom. Now, these three are the photographs of the same person, but taken at different times. You can see there's a difference in the color and the angle as well. They have been placed with different names in this folder, but this program, this application was able to ferret out and find that these three are the same with 60% accuracy, with 60% similarity. Now, friends, when you find something like this, when you do a KYC, it is possible that they could be twins. It is possible that two people could be having similar features. I'm saying that it doesn't mean it is fraud, but it can at least give you a reason to inquire into the antecedents to satisfy yourself that these three people were not the same person. And in case they are, then friends, you have done it. In a matter of seconds, you've been able to find out any fraud. And how can this be used as a preventive also? Like if you're, let's say, the internal auditor or the systems auditor or consultant to an organization, you can even say, okay, every time a new application comes, you can use this program and run it to see whether you're finding any similarity with the new photograph that you have with any of the earlier ones. And then you'll be able to see whether that person or that human being has registered with you as a different name. Well, my idea was not to say that again you should use this or you should not use this. I'm saying keep your mind open, think out of the box, think of new things. Now, gone are those days, like when I started my articleship in 1979. And in those days, we had one file, one paper, one pad, one ball pen, and all that we were supposed to do. I mean, on the kind of things that we did, we were tracing opening balances, we were vouching data, we were comparing postings and all that, which was correct at that point of time. Today's world, those things are all out. The objective of the audit remains the same. The correctness of the financial statements, the correctness of the information, the disclosures, all that remains the same. But the manner in which you will go about, you will have to advance, you will have to change. And in today's world, whether your responsibility exists for detection of fraud or not, it is better in your own interest to make sure that you incorporate certain fraud finding tools also within your audit plan to make it penetrative. That's a recommendation. By the way, it is not an insistence. Now, in order to be a good investigative auditor, I use that word, okay, there are two tenets that you should keep in mind. One tenet is what we call the tenet or the theory of impossibility. We should always keep in mind what is possible and what is not possible. This takes some adjustment in your mindset. Only once you start looking at things with this particular kind of tenet, only then will you get into the habit of it and you'll be able to spot things faster. And second thing is what I call the theory of absurdity. What I will do is I'll not explain them theoretically. I'll go with a live example only and show you how this works. And I purposely put in a lot of problems, like say, for example, when you see this will, and in fact, what I would recommend is for those of you who like to take up a challenge, I will give about 60 seconds before I go on to the solutions. So anybody who can find out, let's say, more than 5 items which are wrong, you can send them to Amrita, and later on, maybe, I mean, if Amrita thinks it's okay, tomorrow you can announce the prize, the winner of the person who could get the maximum for fallacies in this, and maybe if possible, give a small prize also. I mean, this is something which, if I had been there personally, I would have given a book or something, but we should inculcate these kind of competitive measures within our people. So आपका समय शुरू होता है अब. Amrita, give me 1 minute. I'll start. I'll give the solution after that.
Can I also participate, sir?
But okay, then I'll have to give you a prize, or Srinivas will have to give you a prize. Okay, most welcome.
Yeah, I would be reading out the.
And tell people not to put it on the chat, because if you are announcing a prize, you should keep it for themselves. Give it privately to you.
Yeah, the answers are visible only to the panelists.
Okay, fine, sir. Okay, go ahead.
Shivratna Agarwal has put in the answer. Anil Jain. I'll read out all of them after a minute.
And advise them that they should wait for a minute. They may find 2 more, because the person who gets the maximum wrongdoings or the maximum fallacies should get a prize.
Sure thing.
Is it okay? Is the time up?
10 seconds.
Okay.
So everyone is giving it in bits and pieces, but then yes, that was a good exercise for everyone to keep the screens and the typewriters on engage mode. Yes, should I read them out for you?
No, I'll read the solution. So then you will be able to see who's given the closest to all that. Okay.
Yes.
So may I start?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. So I'm giving you the solutions now. So in this will, what I did was I deliberately put in several things which do not make sense, or which will prove that this is a false will. And what I'm wanting to achieve by this is that we should, whenever we are reviewing an important document, like maybe a contract, like a mail, or something where a lot depends on your analysis of that, it is better to keep such theories of impossibilities and absurdities in mind, so that your chances of picking up some kind of deception can be enhanced. So what are the impossible situations and what are the absurd things that are going to be shown in this? So let us look at this. First and foremost, this BIS hallmark. If this will is dated in 58, it could not have been there, because this came into existence only in April 2000. Okay. Then a 7-digit phone number did not exist in 1958. Here you're talking of a long 7-digit number. Okay. Then PAN numbers also came in 1996. So this PAN number is not possible. Then CST, in Bombay, there is a station which is the main station, which was earlier known as Victoria Terminus. CST was a name which was given in the 90s, 1996. So this could not have been referred to by the person during that time. Then PIN codes. Now this is something which is very important, because see, in the earlier days, the PIN codes were non-existent, and we used to refer things like Pune 1, Pune 2, or Mumbai 1, Mumbai 2. And since 72, it came as 4006 or 106, and these PIN codes were defined in August 72. Then UTI Bank came in 1994. Now, this is the theory of absurdity. What we are saying is it is possible. But if you look at this, I know Pune people may not be able to realize, but this is the actual official address of the CM. Now, this is what we call the theory of impossibility. How can this person have gone and made a will in that place where the CM resides? Okay. And similarly, if you look at that Raisina Hill, I think it's the official residence of the president or PM, one of the two. So again, this is what we call the theory of impossibility. You know, when I say impossible means I can say, okay, the other day, Amitabh Bachchan called me for some advice on acting. Now, it is possible, but it is not probable. It is the theory of absurdity if I'm making a statement like that. So these kind of things, if we are able to keep in mind to look out for, it will take time. It's not necessary that today I tell you and tomorrow onwards you'll be able to start doing that. But once you start getting into this practice, you will be in a position, as Srinivas said a little while ago, professional skepticism, the ability to doubt somebody. Okay, but there is one very serious point I must make in this, is that there is a trade-off. You can become an excellent investigator if you are able to develop this sign of suspicion and being alert at all times, but your marriage lasting can drop considerably. I mean, you will, if you want to be a good investigator, you will start suspecting everything, including your wife, including your children. Your marriage may not survive. So I would rather that you have a good marriage and become an average investigator, something like me. Okay. Now, what you can see here, that signature, which is in a felt pen. This felt pen was also invented in 1960. So this is also a theory of impossibility. And one thing which, I want to give you a different dimension also. Many of you may have thought that this has been done on a manual typewriter. It could not have been done. Because if you see, it is justified on both sides. So if it is justified on both sides, then that is possible only through a computer. Yes, friends, you're right. This was done on a computer, and these fonts that you can see, the typeface fonts, were actually downloaded from the internet to make them appear as if they are written on a typewriter, but they are actually computerized. So friends, this is the kind of situation that we are in today. Now, we have some time, so I will just talk about a new thing, or not a new thing, or something which I've been experiencing quite a lot in the recent past, steganography. Now, what is steganography? It is, I would say, the unfortunate science or the unfortunate art of being able to hide information. Like what you see on this is a picture file. Now, for all of you, a picture file would mean a file which is like a JPG file or a PNG file or any file which is there on a computer, which is a visual file. Now, in this file, there are some applications even freely available on the net. And for those of you who are interested, I can give you this name. It's called Our Secret, OURSECRET, Our Secret. So if you download that, I believe it is still available free. You will be able to, once you install it, you will be able to hide information within files that are there on a computer. Like say, for example, you have this innocent picture file. You can actually insert an Excel sheet or a doc file or any other file inside that sheet. This process is called steganography, to be able to smuggle information either in or out of an organization by hiding a file within a file. In technical terms, in IT terms, they also call it a worm. Like you can have in some other application, they may insert a malicious worm or a virus, which will probably take effect at some point in time. So this, friends, is an unfortunate science which is applicable and which is available to all and sundry. If you go to the net, like this program which I talked about, this Our Secret, you'll have umpteen number of programs which are available where you can actually hide files within files. And friends, the very sad part is, I don't have a solution for that. I'm only making this kind of thing visible to you. This kind of a steganographic file, once it is created, and let's say if the person absconds, this happens to us many times when we do investigation, that you are faced with a computer or with some device that a person has been using, he's left and gone away. If you really want to see what that person has been doing or up to, and you want to see whether there is any steganographic file, there is no program or application available to find out whether any file could be a file containing this kind of malicious information. On the net, if you go, you will find a series of programs which may call themselves tech detect, or programs which applications which say that, okay, we can find out if there's steganographic files. But I've tried many of them. And of course, if any of you do find some good file, please do let me know. But I have not found anything which is able to immediately identify any steganographic file within a computer. And there are two reasons why this is not easy. One is that each application, like the one, for example, I talked about R secret. Now that R secret may be developed with an algorithm which may be different from another application which may be developed by a different algorithm. So you don't even know which algorithm, which application the person has used. There may be 100 such applications available on the net, and therefore if you have any stack detect program for a particular algorithm, it may not work on all those other algorithms which may have been used to hide a file. Secondly, this also has the capability of password protection. So even if by chance you do identify that, okay, this file is a steganographic file, it is again password protected, and passwords which are pretty strong, and even the normal password crackers and all are not easy to use and get them. So this unfortunate truth is there to stay. It's just to give you a visibility that this can happen. Now, friends, the fact is, you may tell me that, okay, this is okay. I mean, what way does it really affect us? Like, I mean, okay, as auditors, somebody may send some file, come out with a file. It's not good, agreed. But I'm saying that steganographic principle can be used. Today, I'm sure all of you use Excel sheets in a big way. All of you use Word documents in a big way, right? I think it's a global usage. I'm going to show you some Excel file, if possible. Let's say, for example, this file. Now, this is what? It's a 2-year comparison thing. And don't worry, I mean, it's nothing very serious, but I'm saying you may use this file for various purposes, maybe for budgeting, maybe for comparison of 2 years' expenses and whatnot. Now, in this kind of a file, usually you do not audit these individual numbers. Like, say, for example, you would rely on the number which has been given, and you would accept it to be correct. And particularly if it has come as an exported report from some other ERP or something, there is no audit trail also. You'll probably accept it the way it is given to you. Now, friends, in a situation like this, I'm just going to give you an example. Like if you see this total in this column, which is B16, if you look at the top column, you can see that it's a sum of B3 to B15. That is B3 to B15 up to here. The formula is correct. So that means we would presume that this total is correct. Similarly, this is the total of C3 to C15. But just see, what is the total over here? 245528442. This is the sum total. But if you look at this item of June, which is C5, that item is also 245284442. So how can a part be equal to a sum? There's nothing wrong in this formula. This formula is the correct formula, what you're seeing in this. But the figure that it's taking is only this one. Achha, these are not text files that it is not reading them. These are also all numeric files. So that means that these principles of steganography can be applied even in these sheets. In fact, I'll make a very simple case, which I show in most cases, and to make it a little amusing. Let's say that today Amrita has made this particular sheet for all of us. She has got 4 judges, and she has put Gautam Bhai, Chetan Bhai, Anish Bhai, and Nihal Bhai, and Atul Bhai. She has done a comparison, okay? And each of the judge has given some marks out of 10, okay? Who was the best speaker? So the star speaker contest of Pune, 27 November. Now, I have been given the prize of 10 lakhs because my average is the best. So now this is the average, 8.93. The formula is C6 to C9. When you take from C6 to C9, and this is the formula. So the formula is correct. Now let us see whether my formula is also correct. Yeah, my formula is also correct, D6 to D9. But actually, if you really look at it, my marks are very poor. You see, Judge A has given me 4 marks, B has given me 8, other 2 have given me less than 8. So how, there is no 9, so how can my average be 9? But the formula is 9. Now friends, this is something which we call steganography, because the correct information is hidden and something else is shown to you to mislead you. This is the kind of thing that could happen in our day-to-day lives. So that is the reason why I say that a little bit of alertness, then maybe this could be a homework for you people when you go back home. Okay, what are the different ways you can find out display frauds in Excel reports? When you do that, you'll be able to find some things like this. Or if people would really like to know, they can definitely write to me. I will show them some examples in this, and we can go ahead on this basis. So friends, we have come to almost the end of our presentation. I just thought towards the end, I would like to say and I'll take a few questions also after that, is that I'm probably elder to most of you, I'm sure. And if there are people who are elder to me, they may of course not be included in what I'm going to say now. But for those of you who are younger and who have a long way ahead, my advice is that forget this steganography or forget whatever I said in this entire session. What is important, friends, in life is that if you want to be a good professional, a good auditor, or a good chartered accountant, you have to become first a good human being. And in order to be a good human being, friends, you should try to do whatever it takes, even a small little deed, to make this world a better place to live in. Like, for example, if you go down from your house and if your house has a lift and there is a liftman, give him a chocolate sometimes once in a week or something. See the smile that will bring in his face. The person who washes your car, the person who has nothing to look forward to. If you inject some good things or good vibes into them, believe me, they come back to you. They make you stronger. They make you do whatever you do better. And you do it with no expectation. When you do these kind of good things, if all of us do them collectively, friends, I'm telling you, our world will be a much better world because it goes in the environment. I really feel, friends, that if you do that, and only a good human being can really become a good professional, a very good and a very competent and a successful professional. You will all become successful, friends, I promise you, with by adding this little bit. Of course, working hard, there's no compromise on that, but working hard to be good. I don't want to preach, I'm not that kind of person, but I'm telling you from my personal example that I've had my limitations, faults, and I've been trying to change, trying to improve. So even a small minuscule effort, life repays me with multiple times the benefit. So if my experience, if you believe me, if any of you believe me, the same will go for you as well. And do it selflessly without any expectation. That is what. And if you do that, you don't need to go to a temple, you don't need to do any puja at home, because this is the real puja. So friends, it is with this I'm happy to take on a few questions, because I saw a lot of people raising hands time and again. So we will take a few questions, but real gratitude to Srinivas ji, Amruta, and of course all of you for having patiently heard me for this time that I had. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I always would love to see the audience, but now we are living in a virtual world, so uh, uh, we have to make do with it. So once again, friends, thank you so very much. All the best.
On this note, well, may I request all the participants to use the Q&A tab so that we can chit chat with sir. And in the interim, sir, I would really like to say that you said in the beginning you would like to know our views about the session, about you at the end. So all that I would like to say that with so much of food for thought on this weekend, I'm sure the next upcoming batch announced on forensic accounting and fraud detection would be full overwhelming response, and really grateful to you. It was fantastic presentation. We thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm
Thank you so
really
much.
looking forward to buy the publications and read all of them. And
And
that
may I
is
say one thing? I would just like to add, in the last maybe 3-4 months, I have started a small channel which is called a Spiritual Axioms, where I'm actually giving my real life examples to help people for betterment. They are small 2-3 videos. So if people were to just go on that channel, it's called Spiritual Axioms, or if you even use keyword Chetan Dalal Spiritual Axioms, do go there. And if any of you like some of those videos, let me know, because I want to do more of those, provided you people like it. Please do that. I'd be really grateful if people do that.
100% sure, sir. Yes, we will do that. And the response in the chat box is really overwhelming. Everyone is awestruck with the presentation. Thank you so much, sir. It
So
really
any
means
questions? Thank you, Amrita. And any questions
yeah,
from anybody? Yeah.
I'm just requesting the participants to put them in the Q&A chat box.
Okay. So I have to look at that, the Q&A chat box. One second. So shall I stop sharing my screen now?
Yes, sir. Okay. Everyone is thanking you, and we really cannot thank you enough for this wonderful
No,
presentation.
not at all. It is a privilege that you have called me and given me so much of an
Also,
opportunity
thanks
to
Joshi sir
address
for
you.
being there present throughout the session, sir. Thank you so much, Joshi sir.
We need to listen to him. I have been listening to him for a number of years. And then, we always enjoy his lecture. Every time he has new things to tell us that how we are not looking at obvious. They ultimately he's saying you are not looking at obvious. You only say as an auditor, "Arey, mujhe kaise malum hoga? I have done all the audit right." But he is always pointing out to us that we are not vigilant. We are not really having that professional skepticism which we only talk in theory. Whether in practice we are using that, he always gives a simple example to tell us, no, you are not doing that. What he told us that what is there before your eyes you are not able to see. Even the
Actually,
photograph, it is not. So many examples he has given us today.
yeah, real
Today
life
again.
examples. He has given so much of food for thought that we should really think over or ponder all of the weekend that do we really do the audit what we say that we are auditors.
No, and another thing is our
As I say,
audits.
only if you do meditation. Only
No, no, sir,
meditation, if you do know, whatever you do, I promise you, you'll become much better than what you are. It's a promise.
No, sir, but Dalal sir, the problem is we do audits based. We send our articles for audit. Are we ourselves trained first? Then I need to train my articles. Who is going there? Will he have this kind of vision? Will he have this kind of the way you thought? Even CAs are not looking at it. Whether he is capable, and based on his report, I'm signing a balance sheet, which is creating more problem for auditors in general. Though, or even assuming we have large firms where we have employees, whether I'm training employees for this kind of vision that they should have. When they look at a document, on the face of it, they should say, we had such a partners when I did my articles, that looking at balance sheet, they would say, this is wrong. This profit is incorrect. This is the third eye or third sense they had. There is something seriously wrong in this, and how they could get it, they only knew. So without forensic, but this is how the vision has to be. We have been trying to develop that in our profession over the period, but still I think we lack somewhere, and we therefore lack the ability to get, and we say this is forensic auditor's job, and therefore Chetan Dalal will find out if you ask him. Not we I am not the right person. So that is not the right way which you are saying, that it is there before your eyes, but you are not having the right vision or a 3D vision, as you said. It's not there with us, and therefore we miss it and try to close it very fast. We start audit on 27 and want to sign on 29th, where you can never have this kind of application of mind that is done. And therefore I think our whole process need to change, sir. Unless our process of audit changes, it is not possible to do or have this kind of work to be done. And then we'll always be caught on wrong foot when the fraud is done.
True, very
Yes,
true.
sir. And we agree with you. Yes, sir. We agree with you. And any other questions you have here, you can now answer if you have time. We have time. So you
Yes,
can
sir,
answer
we
any
have
other
five,
questions
five,
that.
6 minutes. Yes, and there are 2 questions already.
So,
So the sequel of this session might happen in the upcoming certification course itself, because participants are definitely join for this course after this session, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. So if you could just tell me the question, because I will not be
Yes,
able
sir,
to
sure
answer
thing.
today.
Can you kindly teach us how one changes the total of the average in the last slide? That is with respect to the steganography.
I like that.
Now you are.
I think
he
there is a
wants to
feed.
now use it in practice.
Amrita,
I don't
for
think
this
you should
there is a
reply.
fee, because this is a big fee for me.
There's a big
No, I would prefer, because this is not something which we should show. We should show how to catch it rather than how to actually change the total.
Yes.
I am in fact saying give them 2 days time. Who Sunil Baharani has written this query, right? I think that's the name of the person. I thank you, Sunil. What I'm saying is, why don't you make an effort to first find out how to find out that change, and then you come back to me. Then we can tell you how we want to do it. Because the more important thing is to sharpen your ability to be able to detect this fraud, not really how to commit it. So for example, if somebody, let's say in Satyam has done something, we don't want to know how he's done it, but we want to know how to catch that.
And sir, I always say what you are saying right now. When I talk on the audit of banks and therefore fraud in banks, after 2 hours, I always tell the participant that you will feel I am a biggest bank fraudster because I know so many things of frauds to be done in banks. And I'm telling you how to, obviously how it was done, but that means how to do it indirectly. So, I mean, that is what a person, you are right that a hacker himself knows how to hack, how
Correct.
others would have done it. So you should be in that mindset of a thief. Then of course you will know what thief is doing. But unless you have that mindset, you should use it for finding out how it is wrong is done, what wrong is done,
And
not how
once
to
you
do it.
find out, no, to do that is very simple. I mean, you will be in a position to even do it yourself. You may change it to any figure that you want. See, changing the figure is a small thing, but there are some ways and techniques that you can find out these kind of things. That is what I think I would like you to try. And if you within 2-3 days you can't do it, do write to me. I'll send you one file to show you what really can happen.
Yes, so thank you so much, and definitely
Yes.
we will
Yeah.
view those links also which you have shared, and it really means a lot sparing so much of time on a Friday evening. Thank you, Zoshi sir. Thanks for being there throughout, and Dalal sir.
Thank you.
Looking forward for a sequel of this session, please.
Most welcome. And
Thank
Pune
you.
is also
Thank you.
very dear to me. I would have been happy to come there personally, but because of obviously the situation, is it likely that in the foreseeable future this thing will people will have these seminars again? Is
So
that
Zoshi sir would be best.
Yeah, sir. Now, sir, Dalal sir, now physical seminars have been allowed from this month, November.
okay?
Slowly, it will pick up. In fact, this particular sub-regional is also partly physical and partly on this
Oh,
particular mode.
is that
It is
so?
possible that I was told that that was the idea initially when it
Okay.
started. They can even try physical because physical is allowed. But I think we have a problem, sir, that we have a filing to be done by December, January. January is the last date for filing returns and December for audit and all. So I think actually people will start attending after 1st February, actually,
Right.
in practice, because we have to do a lot of work before that date. And many are under pressure because last 7-8 months we were not working really well. And that's why there is a big pressure on each CA. So I
True,
hope
true.
CA, all these study circles, everybody will start, organizing themselves from 1st February onwards. And we will definitely have, sir, physical session in any case from May, June. In any case, I mean, whatever COVID situation, I think by that time it should subside substantially, and we should be able to have physical session. So you can, sir, visit us in Pune and see that we
It'll be
can
my pleasure.
physically.
I'd love to
Yes,
come
sir.
there.
Yes, yes, sir.
But
Yes,
anyway,
sir.
my best wishes. I mean, God bless all the participants and all of you here. And let's hope we overcome COVID very soon. So nice. And thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so very
Thanks a lot.
much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir. Thank
Chetan
you.
sir. Thank you, Zoshi sir. And last but not the
Thank you.
least, all the participants for joining us throughout the session. Look forward to see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock for the second day of the sub-regional conference. And not the last people, but the entire team of the Pune branch office staff who have given the relentless efforts to make this technical sub-conference a great success. Thanks to the
Thank
entire
you.
back office
Thank
team
you.
also. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Stay home,
Thank
stay
you,
safe. Thank
Amrita.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.